What time is it where you are right now? Perhaps it is late, and the night sky is already above you. Perhaps you are lying in bed, with your eyes slowly adjusting to the darkness of the room, while far above, countless stars drift silently across the black canvas of space. I invite you to imagine that sky, to feel its immensity. Every point of light, a sun. Every sun, a possible home to worlds. And somewhere among them, an object moves, not belonging to us, not belonging to this solar system, but passing through on its own incomprehensible journey. Tonight we speak of the third visitor. The third object ever detected that came from outside our solar system, and will leave again, never to return. It is called 3I Atlas. The name sounds almost clinical, a catalogue number more than a story. But behind it hides a mystery so deep that no scientist, no telescope, and no theory can fully explain it. Imagine something entering our solar system at extraordinary speed, untouched by the gravity of our sun, cutting through the planet's orbits like a ghost ship crossing an ocean. It is not a comet like those we know, born in the icy depths of our own Oort cloud. It is not an asteroid that circles the sun endlessly. It is something else. A traveller from interstellar space, older than human history, older than Earth itself. When you breathe slowly and close your eyes, try to picture this. A fragment of matter that has wandered through the galaxy for millions, perhaps billions of years. It has seen the glow of alien suns, drifted past unknown planets, and crossed dark gulfs between the stars. And now, by chance, by fate, it has entered our neighbourhood. We are watching it, briefly, before it disappears into the void once more. As we begin this journey together, let your thoughts sink into that image. The night sky above you, vast and endless, and within it, a silent messenger whose origins remain unknown. In a moment, we will explore how it was first discovered, and what made astronomers pause, whisper to one another, and admit that something is not quite right. It was not with fireworks, nor with headlines, that the story of 3I Atlas began. It began, as so many discoveries do, with a quiet night on a volcanic mountain, with lenses aimed at the sky, and with patient instruments that never sleep. On April 10th, 2024, the Pan-STARRS telescope atop Haleakala in Hawaii recorded a faint point of light moving against the fixed stars. At first, it was nothing unusual. Every night, Pan-STARRS adds new dots to its catalogue, tiny wanderers drifting between Mars and Jupiter, icy fragments skimming the outer reaches of the solar system, rubble left over from creation itself. Thousands of objects are marked and logged this way, each one a number in a system that never pauses. But numbers, when examined closely, sometimes whisper secrets. Within days, orbital calculations suggested something strange about this faint dot. Instead of curving inward like the familiar ellipses of asteroids, its path described a hyperbola, a mathematical curve not closed, not bound. Objects on hyperbolic trajectories do not circle the sun. They visit once, and then they are gone, forever. Such a shape could mean only one thing. The object had not been born here. It had come from elsewhere, carrying momentum from another corner of the galaxy. At first, the object was catalogued with the sterile provisional name A10 SVYR, one more entry in a database. But as its interstellar nature became clear, it was granted a new designation, 3I 2024 A3, or more simply, 3I Atlas. The 3I tells its place in history. It was the third confirmed interstellar visitor ever found. The first had been ʻOumuamua in 2017, the second to Borisov in 2019, and now, in 2024, the third. Pause here with me. Take a slow breath. Imagine the scale of this discovery. For all of human history, we assumed that the rocks and comets around us belonged to this system alone. Only in the last decade have we realized that the galaxy is filled with wanderers, fragments expelled long ago from other suns drifting through interstellar space. Each is a survivor of a journey lasting millions, even billions of years, and now one such fragment had passed within range of our gaze. Imagine for a moment the path of such a traveller, cast adrift from its home system, perhaps by the violent pull of a giant planet, perhaps by the collapse of a dying sun. For untold ages it drifted in silence. It saw alien skies, passed near strange stars, and moved through regions where the only light was the faint shimmer of the Milky Way itself. And then, by sheer coincidence, it crossed into our neighbourhood, a small visitor from the incomprehensible dark. The first measurements of brightness suggested that Through-Eye Atlas was several hundred meters across, perhaps larger. Picture a mountain fragment, dark and irregular, tumbling slowly through the void. Not vast by cosmic standards, but enormous compared to anything built by human hands. Its speed was staggering, roughly 60 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. That is 170 times faster than a bullet. It could cross the width of Earth in less than 4 minutes, and yet, to us, it was no more than a moving dot of light, recorded by sensitive CCDs and plotted on orbital charts. Astronomers did not see a shape, only a shifting point whose coordinates betrayed its origin. Still, even a dot can change our place in the universe. Think of how ordinary the discovery seemed at first. A line of code flagged its unusual orbit. Astronomers confirmed it with careful calculations, and then a murmur spread across observatories worldwide. We have another interstellar visitor. After ʻOumuamua's mystery and Borisov's comet-like familiarity, here was a third chance to glimpse matter from beyond our Sun. 3 visitors in 7 years, a reminder that the universe is far less empty than it seems. As April turned into May, telescopes across the world turned toward Atlas. It was faint, barely within reach of some instruments, but it was there. Each new observation refined its orbit, confirmed its speed, and narrowed the error bars of its trajectory. And each night astronomers stared at the same question. What exactly was it? For now, they could only note what was visible. A faint glow, perhaps a thin coma of dust, a brightness that shifted strangely from night to night. Nothing conclusive, not yet. The puzzle would deepen in time, but in those early days the wonder was enough. Humanity had once again caught sight of something not of this solar system, something older, something that carried stories we could not yet read, and so the logs were written, the data collected, and the designation made permanent. Through-Eye Atlas, the third. As you drift with me in this story, let yourself imagine the sky above Hawaii that night. The telescope dome slowly rotating, its mirrors reflecting starlight. The ocean far below, restless and dark, and high above, among billions of silent suns, a tiny fragment from another world crossing paths with ours. A visitor whose discovery was humble, almost accidental, yet whose implications reach into the deepest questions we can ask. This was the beginning, a faint dot of light, a whisper in the data. But soon anomalies would surface, and what began as a simple discovery would unfold into something far stranger. The first thing anyone wants to know when a new world or object is discovered is simple. What is it like? What size? What speed? What shape? What story can its numbers tell? And with Through-Eye Atlas, the answers arrived in fragments, numbers stitched together like faint starlight through a cloudy sky. Each value hinted at something familiar, but also something unsettling, as though the object wore a mask that only partly revealed its face. From the earliest estimates, the visitor appeared to measure several hundred meters in diameter, somewhere between 400 meters and perhaps as large as 1 kilometer across. That is, at minimum, taller than the Empire State Building laid on its side, and at maximum comparable to an entire mountain peak drifting through the dark. To think of something so vast moving silently between the stars is to realize how small we truly are. Imagine it, a fragment of alien stone, larger than any structure humanity has ever built, tumbling endlessly for eons until at last it crosses our path. Brightness is how astronomers infer such things. The object reflected just enough sunlight to betray its size, though the exact shape remained hidden. Was it long and thin like a shard of glass? Was it flattened like a disk? Or a more ordinary lump, rough and irregular, like the comets and asteroids we already know? ʻOumuamua had stunned scientists with its bizarre proportions, 10 times longer than it was wide, more like a blade than a rock. Through-Eye Atlas, at first glance, seemed less extreme, but brightness can be a trickster, and shape is notoriously difficult to deduce from a dot of light millions of kilometers away. Speed, however, was no illusion. Atlas hurtled toward and past us at over 60 kilometers per second. Let that number rest in your mind. 60,000 meters every single second. 170 times faster than a bullet fired from a rifle. At that speed, a journey from Earth to the Moon would take less than 2 hours. Imagine standing outside and watching it streak past, only you could not, because to human eyes it was nothing more than a faint speck, far dimmer than the faintest star. It was there, but hidden, moving with such urgency that our sun itself could barely bend its path. Its trajectory confirmed its foreign origin. Not an ellipse, not the lazy oval of a planet bound to the sun, but a hyperbola. A line that approaches and then escapes forever. It came from beyond, and it would leave again. Like a ship appearing on the horizon only long enough for a glimpse of its silhouette, then vanishing into fog, Atlas gave us only a brief encounter. Its inbound velocity was too great for any solar gravity to capture. Once gone, it would never return. And yet, in that short time, scientists tried to extract every possible detail. The composition of its surface was the next question. Telescopes split its light into spectra, hoping to reveal fingerprints of molecules and minerals. The results hinted at ice, dust, perhaps organic compounds, but the signals were faint. Some data suggested a relatively bright surface, more reflective than expected for a comet nucleus. Other readings suggested darkness, as if it were coated in soot. Conflicting, inconsistent, like a voice carried by the wind. Consider for a moment what it means to be holding such uncertainties. Humanity has mapped the surface of Mars, sent probes to Saturn, photographed Pluto in crisp detail. And yet here, with an object crossing within reach, we could not even be sure of its true shape or colour. It remained a silhouette in the dark, half revealed, half concealed. That in itself was a lesson in humility. Some astronomers compared Atlas to Borisov, the second interstellar visitor. Borisov had looked every bit like a normal comet, trailing a bright tail of gas and dust as it neared the sun. In contrast, Atlas displayed only the faintest activity. Its coma, the glowing envelope of vapour that surrounds a comet nucleus, was thin, inconsistent, almost reluctant. Why would one interstellar comet be so vibrant and another so restrained? Was it older, its ices depleted from countless passes near distant stars? Or was it made of something different altogether? ʻOumuamua had been even stranger. No coma at all, and yet its path had shifted slightly, as though propelled by some invisible hand. That unexplained acceleration had ignited debates. Perhaps outgassing too subtle to detect, or perhaps something else, something engineered. Against that memory, Atlas seemed less dramatic, but the faintness of its activity was still unusual. It sat uncomfortably between categories, like a word that does not translate cleanly from one language into another. Pause for a moment. Breathe slowly. Let your shoulders sink into the bed or chair where you rest. Imagine the night sky above you, the Milky Way stretched across in a pale band, stars too many to count. Somewhere among them, perhaps directly above, perhaps hidden below the horizon, lies this faint intruder. To you it would be invisible, even through binoculars. And yet it is there, rushing past, indifferent to our gaze. Numbers continued to accumulate in observatories worldwide. Rotation rates, albedo estimates, subtle variations in brightness. Some reports suggested the object might be tumbling chaotically, flashing brighter and dimmer as it turned. Others suggested fragments might be breaking away, though this was not certain. The truth was always just out of reach, like trying to see a face clearly in shadow. But from these fragments, a picture began to form. Atlas was large, fast, and foreign. It was not like the countless asteroids catalogued each year. It was not quite like the comets we know. Its trajectory was a straight declaration. I do not belong here. Its brightness and coma whispered, I am not exactly what you expect. And so, the questions multiplied. Was this an icy relic from the outer regions of a distant solar system? Was it a shard of something larger, torn free by gravitational violence? Or could it be something more deliberate, something that bore within it a purpose not of nature's making? Science always begins with data, size, speed, composition, trajectory. But data alone can never soothe the unease that lingers when patterns do not align. The numbers described Atlas, yes, but they also hinted at contradictions. It was comet-like, but not entirely. It was reflective, but strangely inconsistent. It was familiar, but alien. By late spring of 2024, astronomers had gathered enough information to confirm what it was not. It was not bound to the sun. It was not a simple asteroid. It was not a typical comet. But what it was remained unsettled, a riddle moving faster than understanding could catch it. And so, Night after night, telescopes traced its fading light across the sky, knowing that each observation was precious. For soon the visitor would grow dimmer, sliding away from view, taking its secrets with it. A once-in-an-era chance, and even then, only a glimpse. Imagine now the scale of this moment, a fragment from another star system passing through our own. If Earth were a single grain of sand, this would be like another grain rolling across the desert and brushing ours only once in all of history. That is the rarity we were witnessing. And yet, within that fleeting encounter, anomalies lurked. Subtle shifts, faint signals, behaviours that resisted neat categorization. The first shadows of mystery. The first signs that perhaps, as with ʻOumuamua before, something about this visitor would leave us unsettled. We stand, here at the close of this chapter, with numbers in hand. Size, several hundred meters. Speed, 60 kilometers per second. Trajectory, hyperbolic, open, eternal. Composition, uncertain, contradictory. And mood, one of awe tinged with unease. The next part of our journey will place this discovery into cosmic context, comparing it with the two visitors before, and asking why this third one feels different. Why it sits uneasily between categories, and why scientists began to sense that the galaxy might be whispering a message through these rare arrivals. For now, let yourself rest in the image of that silent shard of matter, racing past the planets, indifferent to our questions. An emissary from the unknown, leaving us with more mystery than certainty. When a third interstellar visitor enters our solar system, the natural instinct is to compare, to place it beside the two that came before, like arranging 3 stones on a table and asking what patterns they reveal. Each of these objects, separated by years but united by their alien origin, tells part of a larger story. The question is whether that story is random chance, or whether it points towards something deeper, perhaps even deliberate. The first, discovered in October of 2017, was ʻOumuamua. It arrived as a faint streak of light seen by the Pan-STARRS telescope, much like Atlas years later. At first thought to be a comet, it soon defied that category. ʻOumuamua displayed no visible coma, no tail, no plume of vapour escaping from its surface, and yet its trajectory changed subtly, as though some unseen force propelled it. Outgassing too faint to detect was one possibility, but its bizarre shape, inferred from its rapidly fluctuating brightness, raised eyebrows. Was it elongated like a cigar, 10 times longer than it was wide, or flat like a disc? Models could not agree. To this day, ʻOumuamua remains a mystery wrapped in speculation. Natural or artificial, it refuses to settle neatly into any drawer. Then came the second, in August of 2019, Borisov, discovered by amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov through his modest telescope. Borisov, unlike ʻOumuamua, behaved exactly as one might expect of an interstellar comet. It displayed a bright coma, a spectacular tail, and a composition rich in ices and dust. In fact, it resembled long-period comets of our own Oort cloud, so closely that some scientists joked it could have been mistaken for one of ours, had its trajectory not betrayed its foreign origin. Borisov reassured astronomers. Interstellar visitors could be ordinary too. Not all of them had to be enigmatic puzzles. And then came 3i Atlas in 2024. In many ways it seemed to fall between the two. It had a coma, yes, but faint and uneven. It resembled a comet, but its activity was restrained. Its size was larger than ʻOumuamua, yet smaller than Borisov. Its surface properties hinted at contradiction, reflective in some bands, dark in others. It was comet-like, but not quite. Asteroid-like, but not fully. A hybrid that seemed to echo both of its predecessors without matching either. Imagine laying these 3 side by side. ʻOumuamua, a silent tailless shard accelerating in ways we could not explain. Borisov, a bright traditional comet, reassuringly familiar. Atlas, a muted middle ground, whispering hints of both but conforming to neither. If these were chapters in a book, they would feel like an unfolding progression. A puzzle first posed, then soothed with normalcy, then unsettled again with a third riddle. Is there meaning in this sequence? Perhaps it is only coincidence. The galaxy is vast, filled with debris ejected from countless star systems. We should expect a diversity of forms, but the human mind, ever hungry for patterns, cannot help but wonder if these three were selected in some way, as if the universe or something within it were sending us a message not in words but in fragments of stone. Think for a moment of what it means to detect these objects at all. For most of history, they passed unnoticed. ʻOumuamua was the first we ever recognized, but surely not the first to visit. Countless others may have passed by, invisible to our instruments. Only in the past decade have our telescopes become sensitive enough to catch them, to notice the faint dots moving too fast and too strangely to be local. In that sense, the story of interstellar visitors is not just about them, it is about us. About our awakening gaze, our newfound ability to detect whispers in the night sky. Let us pause here. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts drift outward. Imagine yourself standing on a quiet hill, the Milky Way spread above like a river of light. Somewhere up there, among those countless suns, these objects were born. One thrown out violently from its home, another gently nudged free by the pull of a passing giant planet. Each one a castaway, a wanderer on a journey longer than humanity has existed. To us they appear as fleeting visitors, but to themselves, if such fragments can be said to have a self, they are eternal travellers. Scientists compared Atlas not only with its predecessors, but with the broader family of comets and asteroids in our system. Our Oort cloud, that vast shell of icy bodies surrounding the Sun, is thought to be a reservoir of trillions of such objects. Occasionally one is nudged inward, becoming a long-period comet visible in our skies. Borisov looked very much like one of these, only from another star. ʻOumuamua did not. Atlas, strangely, seemed halfway in between. Not as strange as the first, not as normal as the second. As though nature were teasing us with variety, or perhaps, as some quietly wondered, as though we were glimpsing different stages of some deeper process we did not yet understand. There was also the question of frequency. 3 interstellar visitors in 7 years, after none known for millennia. Had our instruments simply grown sharp enough to notice what had always been there? Or had something changed in the galaxy itself? Some models suggest there should be many such objects passing through, perhaps one within range every year, most too faint to detect. If that is true, then the 3 we have seen are merely the visible tip of a vast invisible tide. Imagine the unseen swarm of wanderers crossing silently around us even now, their faint light lost in the glow of stars. But if these are only the first we have caught, then perhaps the strangeness of ʻOumuamua, the familiarity of Borisov, and the ambiguity of Atlas are not a message, but a sample. 3 stones drawn from a beach of infinite variety. Each one a reminder that the universe is stranger and richer than we imagine. Yet still, the pattern tempts us. One object that seemed unnatural, one that seemed natural, one that seemed uncertain. In human storytelling, such a sequence would never be random. It would be deliberate, a way to build tension, to offer reassurance, then to unsettle again. If the universe were a writer, it could hardly have scripted a more haunting trilogy. Atlas in this context became more than just a faint dot of light. It became a symbol of our place in a growing narrative, a reminder that we are now capable of detecting travellers from other suns, and that each one carries not just scientific data, but philosophical weight. They remind us that our solar system is not isolated, that we live in a galaxy filled with wandering messengers, each older than humanity, each carrying secrets we may never decode. Let yourself rest with that thought. Picture ʻOumuamua, elongated and strange, silently accelerating as it vanished into the dark. Picture Borisov, bright and cometary, leaving a vivid tale behind. Picture Atlas, dim and ambiguous, whispering both familiarity and mystery. 3 visitors, 3 riddles, like 3 notes of a melody that may yet continue, each one building upon the last. And as we hold these comparisons in mind, another thought arises. What anomalies exactly did Atlas reveal? What contradictions made scientists pause and whisper that something did not quite add up? In the next part of this journey, we will step closer to those anomalies, the subtle signals that suggest 3i Atlas may not be what it first appeared to be. But for now, breathe slowly. Let your eyelids grow heavy as you imagine the vast cosmic context. 3 visitors from beyond, crossing our sky in less than a decade. 3 reminders that we are not alone in the galaxy, not in the sense of civilizations, but in the sense of debris, of fragments, of travellers. and perhaps, just perhaps, in ways more unsettling than that. Every discovery begins in clarity, but clarity rarely lasts. At first, 3i Atlas appeared to be a faint comet, a frozen fragment from the depths of another star system. Its orbit was hyperbolic, its coma thin but visible, its brightness measurable. All of these things made sense, until they didn't. For woven into the data, almost immediately, were contradictions. Small at first, almost ignorable, but soon growing louder like faint knocks on the door of certainty. The first anomaly appeared in the light curve, the way its brightness changed as it tumbled through space. Astronomers expected a steady rhythm, like the beat of a drum caused by its rotation, but instead they found flickers and surges, brightness rising and falling too erratically, too quickly, for a simple tumbling body. At times the object flared brighter by as much as 50% in a matter of hours, only to dim again just as suddenly. This suggested a surface far more reflective or irregular than models could explain. Was it fragmenting? Was it shedding layers of dust in sudden bursts? Or was something stranger occurring? A surface engineered, perhaps, to catch and release light in ways not purely natural. The second anomaly lay in its coma. A comet's coma should be symmetrical, a soft halo of gas and dust evaporating under the sun's heat. But the coma of Atlas was lopsided, uneven, almost jagged. Some nights it seemed stronger, others it seemed to vanish almost entirely. One observatory in Chile reported that the coma appeared to shift direction unpredictably, as though jets of material were firing irregularly from different points on the nucleus. Yet even those jets did not match the expected physics. Their force seemed too weak to explain the observed brightness variations. It was as though the coma was an afterthought, a mask hastily worn rather than a natural signature of sublimating ice. The third anomaly came in the trajectory itself. Subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but undeniable with time. When the path of Atlas was compared with predictions based purely on gravitational forces, there were discrepancies. Small ones, fractions of a degree, but consistent. ʻOumuamua had behaved the same way, a mysterious non-gravitational acceleration that no telescope could explain. With ʻOumuamua, scientists had reluctantly blamed outgassing too faint to detect. With Atlas, the same excuse seemed less convincing. There was outgassing, yes, but not enough. The mismatch between trajectory and coma activity was like a lie whispered beneath a truth. Pause with me here. Close your eyes. Picture a shard of alien stone, hundreds of meters long, tumbling in the dark. Imagine you are watching from afar, plotting its course, marking its flickering light. You expect it to behave like a comet, and yet its brightness surges unpredictably, its coma wavers oddly, and its trajectory drifts in ways the coma cannot explain. What would you think? Would you call it coincidence? Or would you begin, quietly, to wonder? There was more. Radar attempts to probe the object failed to yield clarity. It was too distant, too faint, slipping away before the instruments could lock on. Yet even the absence of clarity felt telling, as though Atlas wore a cloak of uncertainty, allowing only glimpses, never full understanding. Some researchers noted something almost eerie in the data. On certain nights, the fluctuations in brightness followed patterns, not perfectly, but uncannily close to repetition. A cycle of dimming and brightening that seemed to recur at intervals, as though the object had multiple reflective facets, or perhaps multiple bodies bound together, rotating in complex ways. One speculative paper suggested it might be a contact binary. Two lobes joined like a peanut, wobbling as they turned. But the fit was never perfect. There was always excess variation, unexplained, like static in a signal. And then there was the silence. With Borisov, gas emissions had been detected and analysed. Cyanide, carbon monoxide, simple molecules common in comets. With Atlas, the spectra were thin, almost barren. A trace of dust here, a hint of volatile gas there, but nothing strong enough to explain even the modest coma that telescopes could see. It was like a body pretending to be a comet, mimicking the faint gestures without the chemistry to back them up. Imagine being a scientist at one of those telescopes. You sit in the control room, screens glowing, data lines scrolling, the faint hum of equipment surrounding you. Night after night you watch the numbers accumulate, and you feel it. That subtle unease that comes when nature resists categorization. You try explanation after explanation, but each one leaves gaps. The object is too bright, yet too faint, too active, yet too inert, too ordinary, yet too strange. This was the first true anomaly. The realization that 3i Atlas could not be fully described by the categories we know. It was not a comet in the familiar sense. It was not an asteroid either. It was something in between, something transitional, or something entirely different. The more scientists studied it, the more questions they faced. Was it fragmenting into smaller pieces that briefly flared before fading? Was its surface coated in unusual ices that sublimated in fits and starts? Or was there, buried within its erratic behaviour, a pattern too complex for natural physics alone? The official papers were cautious, as scientists must be. They spoke of uncertainties, of incomplete data, of models that did not fit neatly. But between the lines, in quiet conversations after conferences, in emails sent late at night, the whispers grew. What if we are seeing something not entirely natural? What if Atlas, like ʻOumuamua before it, is an artifact, a fragment of technology, worn down by eons but still carrying traces of its purpose? Let that question rest in your mind as you breathe slowly. Imagine the stars above, the endless dark, and in it this fragment gliding past. If it is natural, it is a fascinating oddity. If it is artificial, it is a message, not in words, but in presence. A message that says, you are not alone. By the end of its observing window, the consensus was unsatisfying. Atlas was anomalous, yes, but not in a way anyone could fully prove. Too strange for a normal comet, too normal for a technological artifact, a riddle poised between categories. The first anomaly was not a single fact, but a chorus of contradictions. Brightness that did not match its coma, a coma that did not match its chemistry, a trajectory that did not match its outgassing. Each thread unravelling the neat story scientists wanted to tell, and so, as Atlas faded from view, slipping back into the darkness from which it came, it left us with more mystery than knowledge. A comet, perhaps, an asteroid, maybe, a hybrid, likely. But beyond those labels, a deeper possibility lingered, unspoken but undeniable, that we had glimpsed something beyond the reach of science alone. This is where the story turns, from facts to speculation, from data to wonder. In the next part, we will hear the mainstream explanations, the natural theories proposed to explain away the anomalies. But tonight, as you drift toward rest, hold this thought. Sometimes, in the quiet of observation, the universe whispers not in certainty but in riddles, and 3i Atlas was one such riddle. Whenever the unknown appears, science does what it always has. It gathers, compares, and proposes. The universe is too vast, too strange, to leave room for every wild idea. And so, when 3 Atlas revealed its anomalies, its inconsistent coma, its erratic light curve, its subtle non-gravitational drift, astronomers turned to natural explanations. The first responsibility of science is restraint, to explain extraordinary data with ordinary causes until every ordinary cause has been exhausted. And so, in papers, conferences, and quiet debates, 3 main theories emerged. Each one was elegant in its own way, each one built from centuries of accumulated knowledge. And yet, even as they were proposed, doubts flickered beneath their surfaces, like shadows that cannot quite be banished by the light. Theory 1, fragmentation. The first explanation was fragmentation. Perhaps scientists suggested 3i Atlas was not a single intact nucleus at all, but a cluster of smaller pieces loosely bound, or perhaps already breaking apart. If this were true, the erratic variations in brightness would make sense. A tumbling shard might flare when its reflective surface turned toward us, then dim again as it rotated away. A second piece, trailing behind, could contribute additional glimmers. Together, the fragments might mimic a pattern too chaotic for a single solid body. This theory fit with some observations. The coma's unevenness, for instance, could be explained by jets emerging from multiple fragments, each outgassing at different rates. The faint surges of brightness could be temporary flares from fresh surfaces exposed by breakage. Comets do fragment, after all. In our own solar system, dozens have shattered as they approach the sun, shedding pieces like brittle glass. Why should an interstellar comet be any different? And yet there were problems. No clear evidence of separate nuclei appeared in the images. Even the Hubble Space Telescope, trained upon Atlas, revealed only a blur of light. If it were fragmenting significantly, surely at least one secondary nucleus should have been visible, but none were. The theory was persuasive, but the silence of the evidence was damning. Theory 2, exotic ices. The second explanation delved into chemistry. Perhaps the strange behaviour of Atlas was not fragmentation, but composition. Our solar system's comets are built largely of water ice, mixed with dust and simple molecules like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and methane. These sublimate in predictable ways as they warm, producing familiar comas and tails. But an interstellar comet might not obey these rules. Imagine a comet born in a colder star system, or one formed from material richer in unusual ices. Hydrogen, nitrogen, or carbon monoxide ices, for example, sublimate far more easily than water. If Atlas contained such exotic volatiles, it could release sudden jets of gas in fits and starts, explaining the erratic coma. The brightness surges might be bursts of crystalline frost, breaking free in pulses. This idea was not without precedent. In 2020, some researchers had suggested that ʻOumuamua's mysterious acceleration could be explained if it were composed partly of solid hydrogen, a fragile exotic ice that would sublimate invisibly under solar heat, producing thrust without a visible coma. Could Atlas too be made of strange ices, its behaviour a reflection of alien chemistry? But again, there were issues. Spectra taken from Atlas showed no strong signs of exotic gases. Its coma, faint as it was, resembled the chemical fingerprints of ordinary dust and carbon compounds. No hydrogen lines, no nitrogen spikes. Nothing to suggest a chemistry radically different from what we already know. The idea remained possible, but it was speculation piled upon absence. Theory 3, chaotic rotation. The third explanation was mechanical rather than chemical. Perhaps Atlas was rotating chaotically, not around a single stable axis, but in a tumbling, unpredictable spin. Such a non-principal axis rotation could explain why its brightness rose and fell so irregularly. Different faces of the body might have wildly different reflectivity. One facet, perhaps, coated in bright ice, another dark with soot. As it spun, the light curve would look erratic, unpredictable. Chaotic rotation could also disrupt outgassing. Jets of vapour emerging from the surface would shift direction constantly, producing a coma that appeared lopsided, sometimes strong, sometimes weak. The irregular thrusts could even account for the subtle deviations in trajectory. This explanation was elegant. It did not require exotic chemistry or invisible fragments, just a body spinning clumsily, like a coin wobbling on a table. Many asteroids in our solar system tumble in this way, after collisions or close gravitational encounters. Why not Atlas? And yet, doubts persisted. The degree of irregularity in the light curve seemed too extreme even for chaotic rotation. Models that tried to fit its brightness fluctuations failed to align with the observed data. The coma's sudden disappearances were harder to explain as well. Tumbling might produce variations, but not the near-complete vanishing acts observed on certain nights. Once again, the theory explained some things, but not all. The calm voice of science. Still, these three theories, fragmentation, exotic ices, chaotic rotation, became the pillars of the mainstream narrative. In journals and press releases, astronomers leaned toward them, cautious not to leap into speculation. To the public, Atlas was described as a faint, unusual comet. To the scientific community it was a challenge, but still within the bounds of the natural. And this is how science survives the unknown, by naming it, classifying it, fitting it into categories that make sense, even if those categories strain under the weight of contradictions. It is safer to say, perhaps it is a tumbling comet with unusual ices, than to whisper the alternative, perhaps it is not natural at all. Pause here with me, breathe slowly, let your eyes rest. Imagine the calm authority of a scientist at a press conference, explaining patiently that Atlas was likely just a fragmenting comet, nothing more. The voice is steady, the words reassuring. The vastness of the cosmos is terrifying enough without suggesting alien technology or cosmic intent. The human mind craves certainty, and science provides it, even when that certainty is provisional, fragile. But beneath the calm surface, questions remained. In private, astronomers admitted their unease. The theories explained pieces of the puzzle, but never the whole. Like patches sewn onto a fabric that continued to tear, the explanations held for a moment, but not forever. A familiar pattern, and here is where context returns. With ʻOumuamua, mainstream explanations had stumbled as well. Its lack of a coma was explained away with invisible hydrogen ice, though no proof existed. Its acceleration was blamed on outgassing too subtle to detect, though the physics strained credulity. With Borisov, relief had come, a comet that fit the mould perfectly. But with Atlas, the unease returned. A second object that refused to conform neatly. 3 visitors, one impossible, one ordinary, one ambiguous. A pattern of reassurance and doubt, like waves rising and falling. What are the odds, truly, that the first 2 interstellar objects we detected, the first in all of history, would both be so strange, and now a third straddling the line? The mainstream theories calmed the waters for a while, but the anomalies did not go away. They remained in the data, quietly persistent, like static on a radio signal that will not disappear no matter how you adjust the dial. Between science and silence, and so, 3i Atlas was recorded, classified and archived in the language of science. A faint interstellar comet, unusual in behaviour but ultimately natural. That was the story told officially. But beneath the surface, in late-night discussions, in speculative papers never submitted, in whispered thoughts unspoken at conferences, another story lingered. That perhaps the anomalies were not mistakes, not noise, not incomplete models, but signals of something more. The calm reset of science is necessary. It gives us structure, safety, a place to rest. But as you lie back now, breathing slowly, imagine that reset as a fragile veil. Beneath it, the shadows still move. Beneath it, the questions still burn, and in the next part, those mainstream explanations will begin to crumble. We will examine, one by one, why fragmentation, exotic ices and chaotic rotation fail to hold against the data. We will move from the calm voice of reassurance back into the whisper of unease. Science is strongest when it questions itself. Every theory must face the relentless pressure of evidence, and when evidence resists, theories begin to fray. With 3i Atlas, 3 explanations had been placed carefully on the table. Fragmentation, exotic ices, chaotic rotation. Each was neat, elegant, and plausible. But as the weeks of observation wore on, each one began to unravel. Not in a single dramatic moment, but slowly, like threads pulled loose from a tightly woven cloth. The cracks in fragmentation, the idea that Atlas was fragmenting, appealed at first. It explained the erratic brightness, the lopsided coma, even the faint non-gravitational drift. But the longer astronomers looked, the less convincing it became. Fragmenting comets leave clues. When Shoemaker-Levy 9 broke apart in 1992, dozens of fragments trailed behind it like glowing beads on a string, each one bright enough to detect. When Comet 73P Schwarzmann-Wachmann shattered in 2006, telescopes captured dramatic images of pieces scattering into space. But with Atlas, there were no beads, no scattering, no visible fragments. Even the Hubble Space Telescope, with its sharp gaze, detected only a single unresolved source. Some suggested the fragments might be too small, too faint to see. But then why the bright surges in the light curve? A small fragment cannot flare with the brightness of a mountain-sized body. The explanation contradicted itself. Worse still, fragmentation tends to leave behind dust trails, ribbons of debris glowing faintly in sunlight. Atlas displayed no such trail. Its coma was thin, yes, but oddly clean. The erratic brightness remained unexplained. The idea of a crumbling comet was attractive, but in the silence of the data it withered. The mirage of exotic ices, the second explanation that Atlas was composed of unusual ices, also fell apart under scrutiny. The hypothesis was elegant. Exotic volatiles like solid hydrogen or nitrogen, unfamiliar in our solar system, could explain erratic outgassing without leaving strong chemical fingerprints. After all, an interstellar object could easily carry chemistry from environments alien to our own. But nature is stubborn. Spectral analysis of Atlas's coma revealed nothing exotic. No hydrogen lines, no nitrogen excess, no signs of molecules unseen in ordinary comets. What little chemistry was detected resembled the same dust and carbon compounds we already know. If exotic ices were at work, they left no trace. Some argued the gases might have sublimated invisibly, escaping without strong spectral lines, but that too strained plausibility. To produce the observed fluctuations in brightness, large amounts of material would have to escape. Such volumes should have left signatures detectable even at distance. The silence of the spectra could not be ignored. And then there was the problem of timing. If exotic ices were sublimating, the activity should have increased smoothly as Atlas approached the Sun. Instead, its coma appeared in fits and starts, sometimes vanishing almost entirely. Not the steady exhalation of unusual chemistry, but the irregular gasp of something else. Thus the second theory collapsed. Exotic ices, once a tempting answer, became little more than an unprovable speculation, useful for filling press releases but hollow against the data, the limits of chaotic rotation. The third explanation, chaotic rotation, survived longest. It was elegant, grounded, and familiar. Many small bodies in our solar system tumble unpredictably after collisions. Why not Atlas? Its erratic light curve could be explained by a body with multiple reflective surfaces. Its lopsided coma could be the result of jets firing in shifting directions. Even its trajectory drift could be traced to uneven thrusts from those jets. But when astronomers tried to model it, the fit failed. Tumbling objects produce light curves with patterns, however complex. The brightness variations of Atlas were too sharp, too extreme. Peaks and troughs appeared with no rhythm, no stability, as if something other than rotation was at work. Furthermore, chaotic rotation does not explain the near-total disappearance of the coma on certain nights. If outgassing is driven by sunlight, then some level of activity should always be present, regardless of orientation. The vanishing acts of Atlas could not be explained by tumbling alone. And finally, the non-gravitational acceleration remained troubling. The jets from a tumbling comet should produce a measurable correlation between outgassing activity and trajectory shifts. With Atlas, the correlation was absent. The coma did not match the drift. The numbers would not align. And so the third theory too began to falter. Elegant, yes. Convincing, no. The whisper of unease. By late 2024, astronomers faced an uncomfortable truth. None of the mainstream explanations fully worked. Fragmentation failed to account for the lack of visible debris. Exotic ices failed to show themselves in the spectra. Chaotic rotation failed to fit the data. Each theory explained some pieces, but none explained the whole. Science is cautious in the face of anomalies. The official narrative remained steady. Atlas was a comet, unusual but natural. But beneath the calm announcements, the unease grew. In private conversations, in late-night exchanges between researchers, the word artifact was whispered. Not claimed, not published, but whispered. It was the same unease that had followed ʻOumuamua, the same quiet suspicion that perhaps, against all probability, these objects were not just rocks and ice. Perhaps they were something else. But how could that be? How could humanity's first 3 glimpses of interstellar visitors all defy neat explanation? The odds seemed absurd, yet the anomalies remained. Pause here with me. Breathe slowly, deeply. Let the thoughts settle like a stone in still water. When every natural explanation falters, what remains? The human mind recoils from the void of not knowing. It searches for patterns, for alternatives, for meaning. That search, in this case, leads inevitably towards speculation, the boundary of science. Science does not surrender easily. The official reports continued to speak of uncertainty, of incomplete data, of further study needed. These are the cautious words of a discipline that knows its limits. But outside the lines of peer-reviewed papers, other thoughts emerged. Perhaps the anomalies were not errors, not gaps in observation, but signals of something more. The collapse of the 3 mainstream theories left a vacuum, and in that vacuum speculation thrives. If Atlas was not fragmenting, not exotic, not merely tumbling, then what was it? Here we arrive at the boundary of science, the moment when data ceases to provide comfort and the imagination must step in. Beyond this boundary lies speculation, myth, and fear. But it is also the space where wonder grows, where questions deepen, where the cosmos reveals not answers but mysteries, the edge of the unknown. And so, with mainstream explanations faltering, Thirtyvi Atlas slid quietly out of view, its secrets intact. Observatories closed their shutters, conferences ended, papers were filed away. Officially, the story ended there. An unusual interstellar comet. Puzzling, but natural. But for those who had watched closely, the story was not so simple. They had seen the contradictions. They had felt the unease. and in the quiet spaces between scientific certainty and cosmic mystery, they began to wonder aloud. What if Three-Eye Atlas was something else entirely? This is where our journey pivots. We have walked through data, through numbers, through the careful reasoning of science. We have watched those explanations fray, one by one, against the stubborn silence of the cosmos. And now, we stand at the threshold of speculation. In the next part, we will pause for a calm reset. We will step back from the technicalities and gaze once more at the night sky, letting its vastness remind us of our smallness. And then we will pivot, leaving the safety of science behind and stepping into the realm of imagination, possibility, and fear. There are times in every story when the questions grow heavy, when the mind bends beneath the weight of uncertainty. And in such moments, it is best to pause, to let go of the chase, to rest for a while in the simple act of seeing. Tonight we pause with the stars. Close your eyes, if you wish, and imagine that you are far from the city, far from the glow of streetlights and the constant hum of human machines. Imagine yourself lying on a quiet hill, the grass cool beneath your body, the air still, the horizon wide and unbroken. Above you the sky unfolds in silence. The Milky Way arches overhead, a river of pale light stretching from one horizon to the other. It glimmers like powdered silver spilled across black velvet, countless stars blending into a soft glow. Each of those points, every one of them, is a sun. Many are larger than ours. Many shine with colours we cannot see. Around them circle planets, some barren, some icy, some perhaps warm and blue like Earth. To the naked eye, they are only specks. But in truth, each is a world entire. The human eye, marvellous as it is, can see only a fraction. In the band of the Milky Way alone, there are more stars than there are grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth. And beyond them, still more galaxies, each holding billions more suns. The scale is impossible to hold in the mind. You can only let it wash over you, like an ocean too vast to cross. Take a slow breath. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. As you do, imagine that breath as a fragile rhythm against the silence of space. Your body, your heartbeat, your thoughts, all tiny in comparison to the span of galaxies. Yet here you are, alive, awake, able to look upward and wonder. Somewhere, within that vastness, the object we call Three-Eye Atlas continues its path. Perhaps in your imagination you can see it now, a faint shard of rock and ice drifting silently between the stars. It does not blaze brightly, it does not call attention to itself. To human eyes, even through telescopes, it is little more than a point. Yet its story carries weight, for it reminds us of the endless exchange between systems, matter cast adrift from distant suns, crossing the darkness until it brushes against our own. And as you imagine this, think also of the stillness of the sky. Stars appear fixed, unmoving, eternal. But in truth, they too are in motion. Our sun orbits the centre of the Milky Way once every 230 million years, carrying Earth and all its companions with it. The stars we see are not where they once were, nor where they will be again. The whole galaxy is a dance so slow and grand that we cannot perceive it in a single lifetime. Only instruments, only mathematics reveal the motion. To our eyes the heavens remain calm. This calmness is a gift. It allows us to rest, even when mysteries stir. It allows us to lie on the grass and feel safe, even as fragments from other stars glide invisibly above. The universe may be vast, indifferent, and strange, but for this moment it is also beautiful, still, and quiet. Let your thoughts drift outward with me. Beyond Earth, beyond the Moon, past Mars, past Jupiter and its swirling storms, past Saturn's rings, past the icy orbits of Uranus and Neptune. Keep drifting. Past the Kuiper belt where icy remnants circle in slow arcs, past the Oort cloud, a shell of frozen bodies stretching a light year from the sun. Beyond that, interstellar space opens wide, a gulf without borders, where the sun's light grows weak and the stars of the galaxy begin to dominate. It is there, in that silent gulf, that Three Atlas spent most of its life. Not bound to any star, not warmed by any light, drifting in darkness for millions, perhaps billions of years. Imagine the patience of such a journey. Ages pass, civilizations rise and fall, entire species appear and vanish, while the fragment drifts, silent and indifferent. It knows nothing of its path. It simply moves, a prisoner of momentum, until fate brings it into our sight. How many such travellers exist? Hundreds of millions, perhaps more. They wander invisibly, most too faint to detect, crossing solar systems without ever being seen. Atlas is only one we were lucky enough to notice. But there are others, even now, moving past, their presence unknown. The galaxy is full of ghosts. This is the perspective that calms the heart. To know that our lives, our troubles, our worries, are smaller than dust against the scale of the cosmos. The mystery of Atlas is real, yes, and it unsettles us. But in the face of the stars, that unease dissolves into wonder. The unknown does not need to frighten. It can also soothe, reminding us that life itself is rare, fragile, and precious. Pause again. Breathe. Imagine the night air against your skin. Imagine the stars above, eternal and vast. Imagine yourself as part of that universe, not apart from it. You are not separate. The same atoms that burn in stars are in your body. The same carbon and oxygen that shape comets and planets flow in your blood. You are made of the cosmos, and the cosmos looks back through your eyes. And so, for now, we rest. We let the mystery of Atlas drift to the edge of thought. We let go of the contradictions, the anomalies, the unease. We lie still beneath the sky, and we allow ourselves to marvel at its calm. But know this, calm is never the end. After stillness comes motion, after rest comes awakening. And as we leave this pause, we must also leave the safety of science. We must follow where speculation leads. Because when every natural explanation falters, imagination begins to whisper, and in those whispers, darker possibilities wait. For now, close your eyes, feel the calmness of the night sky. Let your mind drift like Atlas itself, carried silently through the void. And when you open your eyes again, we will step beyond the edge of certainty, into the realm where speculation becomes the only map we have. The night is quiet now. We have walked together through discovery, through data, through the calm voice of science. We have listened to explanations offered, and then we have watched them fail. We have rested beneath the stars, letting their calmness soothe us. But calm is not the end of the story. It is only a pause, a still surface beneath which currents wait. And those currents call us onward. There comes a point in every investigation when the familiar tools no longer fit. With 3 Atlas, we have reached that point. The numbers have been measured, the models have been tested, the hypotheses have been offered, and yet the object remains unsettled, defiant, whispering contradictions that science cannot quiet. It is here, at this threshold, that we must make a choice. We can remain within the bounds of caution, repeating phrases like unusual comet and incomplete data, or we can take a step forward, away from certainty and into possibility. The second path is dangerous, but it's also necessary. For if we do not dare to imagine, we may never glimpse the larger truth that hides beyond the reach of our instruments. Imagine again that fragment of rock and ice drifting through the dark. To call it a comet is easy, but the word does not fit cleanly. To call it an asteroid is tempting, but it leaves too many gaps. And so the question lingers in the air. If it is not fully natural, then what else might it be? Speculation begins with whispers. Some astronomers spoke quietly of non-natural origin. Others dared to use the word artifact. The word hung in the air like a forbidden note, dangerous to utter but impossible to ignore. Could 3 Atlas be more than a random fragment? Could it be a creation? Pause here. Breathe slowly. The thought itself is dizzying. We are accustomed to thinking of ourselves as the only builders in the cosmos, the only hands that shape matter with intent. To imagine that a fragment drifting past our sun might once have been part of a machine, a vessel or a probe, is to widen the horizon beyond what we can see. It is to accept that the silence of the universe may not be empty but watchful. This is where we pivot. Not away from science, but beyond it. Science has carried us as far as it can. The next step is imagination, speculation, wonder. Not all of it will be true. Perhaps none of it will be. But in the absence of certainty, we must allow possibility to breathe. Let us return to the anomalies, one by one, but this time with a different lens. The erratic brightness. Could it be reflections from surfaces not natural but constructed? Panels, facets, remnants of technology glinting as they turn. The uneven coma. Could it be not sublimating ice, but venting from internal systems long since broken, releasing their last breaths into space? The trajectory shifts. Could they be the echoes of a propulsion system, faint and failing after millions of years? And the silence of the spectra, perhaps not absence, but disguise. If the material is artificial, it may not match any chemistry we know. It may be designed to conceal, to mislead, to pass as natural debris until seen up close. These are not conclusions. They are only questions, but questions that science is too cautious to ask aloud. Yet in the quiet of the night, under the stars, we are free to ask them. Think of ʻOumuamua once more, its shape too strange, its acceleration unexplained. Think of Atlas, arriving only 7 years later, carrying echoes of the same mystery. The first might have been chance, but the second, the third, how many times must coincidence knock before we admit it may be something more? This is the pivot, the turning of the mind from what is safe to what is possible, from the certainty of data to the wonder of speculation, from science to story. Let your imagination drift with me now. Picture 3i Atlas not as a comet but as a relic, a fragment of a vessel shattered long ago, or perhaps a probe, dispatched ages before our species was born, still gliding silently between the stars. Perhaps it carries no message, no function, only its existence as proof that others once were, or perhaps it is not relic but seed, designed to travel endlessly until it finds a place to land. The possibilities are many, and each one carries both wonder and dread. For if Atlas is artificial, then it is evidence. Evidence that we are not the first to look upward, not the only ones to send our creations into the dark. Evidence that the galaxy has been awake long before us. Pause again. Breathe. Let the thought sink in. To lie under the stars is to feel small. To consider Atlas as an artifact is to feel smaller still. Yet in that smallness is awe, and awe is the beginning of wisdom. And so we pivot. From here onward, our journey leaves behind the careful phrases of astronomy and enters the territory of imagination. We will ask what kind of civilization might have built such a thing. We will wonder what purpose it could serve. We will follow the thread from artifact to civilization to danger, from danger to horror, step by step deeper into speculation. But tonight, here at this turning point, let us acknowledge the shift. We have moved from the known to the unknown, from the measurable to the imaginable, from the safety of science to the shadowed edge of possibility. The path ahead will be darker, but it will also be more revealing, for sometimes only in darkness do we see the faintest lights. Now that we have stepped beyond the careful boundaries of science, we must allow ourselves to imagine, to take the anomalies of 3i Atlas not as noise but as signals, to let them speak in another language, not of chemistry and physics, but of intent. For if Atlas is not wholly natural, then perhaps it is something else. Perhaps it is a probe, or perhaps it is debris. Imagine the possibility that Atlas is artificial, not alive, not awake, but built, assembled long ago by minds not our own. Its irregular brightness could be reflections from surfaces once smooth, now scarred by eons of dust and radiation. Its inconsistent coma might be the last sighs of machinery, ruptures venting ancient gases, like a derelict ship exhaling in the dark. Its subtle trajectory shifts, unexplained by gravity alone, could be faint echoes of propulsion systems long since broken, but still imparting whispers of thrust. The thought is staggering, but it is not without precedent in our imagination. For decades, thinkers like Carl Sagan and Freeman Dyson pondered the possibility of interstellar probes, devices sent by distant civilizations to wander the galaxy, gathering data, perhaps even seeking company. Some might be as small as a needle, others as vast as a mountain. Most would be silent, built not for contact but for endurance. If Atlas is such a probe, what kind might it be? There are several possibilities. The silent scout. The first possibility is that Atlas is a scout, a vessel designed to travel endlessly, slipping through star systems to collect data. It would not need to communicate actively. It could simply record, leaving traces of its passage in subtle ways. Perhaps it has no signal left to send. Perhaps its creators are long gone, and Atlas drifts on as a ghost of their ambition. If so, what would it have seen? Imagine the memory of stars it has passed, planets it has brushed, signals it may have intercepted. Imagine it carrying within its structure the history of journeys spanning millions of years. To us it is only a faint dot of light, but within it could hold the silence of civilizations extinguished long ago. The derelict relic. Another possibility is that Atlas is not a working probe, but a relic. The broken piece of something once larger, shattered in collision or war or entropy. If you have ever walked along a beach and found a fragment of pottery, smoothed by waves, you know the feeling. The fragment is silent, but it whispers of hands that shaped it, lives that used it, times that are gone. So too with Atlas. It may be a shard of a vessel too vast for us to imagine, its pieces flung into interstellar space. Or it may be the carcass of a structure, stripped of its purpose, now mistaken for a comet. The anomalies we see, the erratic brightness, the uneven coma, could be the scars of age, the debris of collapse. And if this is true, then Atlas is not only a messenger, it is a warning, a reminder that civilizations, no matter how advanced, can shatter, and their remnants drift, silent and purposeless, into the dark. The von Neumann seed. There is a more unsettling possibility. Some thinkers have speculated that advanced civilizations might build self-replicating probes, machines that use raw material from each system they encounter to create copies of themselves. These von Neumann probes, as they're called, could spread across the galaxy, multiplying without end, carrying the mark of their makers into eternity. What if Atlas is one such seed? Not fully active now, perhaps, but still containing within it the blueprint of replication. Its faint coma could be residue of failed attempts to harvest material. Its irregular light curve could be signs of structures designed to unfold now stuck in decay. Perhaps it is dormant. Perhaps it awaits a signal that will never come. The idea is chilling, for if even one civilization in the history of the galaxy built such machines, they could spread everywhere. And yet we see no evidence, except, maybe, in the anomalies of objects like Atlas, the mask of naturalness. There is also the possibility that Atlas is not failing, but hiding, that its faint coma and inconsistent behavior are deliberate camouflage, a way to pass as a natural comet, to slip unnoticed through alien star systems. From afar, it looks like debris. Only up close would its true nature be revealed. This idea is both elegant and terrifying, for it suggests not only technology, but intent. To disguise oneself is to fear being seen. To pass as natural is to wish to avoid notice. And if Atlas is hiding, then from whom? From us? From others? From predators in the galactic dark? The weight of age. Yet whatever its nature, if Atlas is artificial, it is old. Older than our species, older than our civilization, perhaps older than Earth itself. To cross interstellar distances at sublight speeds takes millions of years. Civilizations rise and fall in far less time. Whatever built Atlas may be gone, reduced to dust, remembered only by the fragment that now passes us by. There is something profoundly humbling in this thought. To imagine that we fragile newcomers are observing the remains of something so ancient, that our telescopes have glimpsed a survivor of history we cannot know, a history written not in words but in drifting stone and ice. Pause here, take a slow breath, feel the rise and fall of your chest, the weight of your body against the bed or chair. Imagine the night sky above you, endless and calm. Somewhere, a fragment glides silently past, older than human memory, carrying within it a secret we cannot yet read. Probe or debris? In the end, the line between probe and debris may blur. What begins as purposeful technology may, with time, become ruin. A probe sent with intent becomes, after millions of years, nothing more than a drifting fragment, its systems dead, its purpose forgotten. To us, the distinction hardly matters. Whether probe or relic, its very existence would prove the same thing, that we are not the first, that others have been here, that the galaxy is older, richer, and more inhabited than its silence suggests. And so, through Atlas leaves us with this haunting possibility, that it is not simply a rock, not simply a comet, but a message not written, not transmitted, but embodied. A message that says, we were here once. We reached into the dark, we sent something, and it endures. Whether that message is intentional or accidental, hopeful or tragic, we cannot yet know. But to imagine it is to feel the ground shift beneath us, to realize that our sky is not empty, that our solar system is not untouched, that we live in a galaxy where fragments of others drift past silently, carrying their secrets beyond our grasp, toward the next step. This is the threshold we have crossed. From comet to artifact, from natural to possible, we have allowed ourselves to imagine Atlas as probe or debris, as relic or seed. And though none of these ideas can be proven, their very possibility changes us. For in wondering, we become aware of our own fragility. If others have built and fallen and left only fragments behind, then we too may be temporary. If relics drift between stars, then the galaxy is not silent. It is haunted. Haunted by the ruins of civilizations long gone, haunted by the possibility that our future may join theirs. And yet, in that haunting, there is also wonder. For to know that others once were is to know that we are not unique, that the spark of intelligence has flickered elsewhere, that the cosmos is not indifferent, but storied. As you close your eyes now, let yourself imagine Atlas not as rock, not as ice, but as a message, a silent probe drifting through eternity, a relic of builders we will never meet, a shard of a story too vast to understand. And as we move forward, we will ask deeper questions still. If Atlas is a probe, then who sent it? If it is debris, then what destroyed its makers? What kind of civilization lies behind the fragment that now slips past our sun? The answers will take us further into speculation, further into wonder, further into dread. But for now, we pause at this first step, at the simple possibility that Atlas is not natural at all. If 3i Atlas is more than rock, if it is artifact as well as object, then the implications ripple outward like waves in a dark ocean. To accept even the possibility of an artificial origin is to accept, quietly, that we are not alone. That we are latecomers in a galaxy where others have walked before us. The questions multiply quickly. Who built it? When? Why? The scale of time. First consider time. To cross interstellar space at the speeds we observe, an object like Atlas must drift for millions, even tens of millions of years. Our species, Homo sapiens, has existed for only about 300,000 years. Civilization, in the form of agriculture, cities, and writing, has existed for less than 10,000. The builders of Atlas, if they existed, may have launched it before our ancestors knew fire. They may have launched it before Earth's continents settled into their current shapes. What does it mean then to detect a fragment of technology so old? It means its makers may already be gone, extinguished by time, erased by catastrophe, forgotten by everything but the silent relic they left adrift. Or perhaps they endure, still out there among the stars waiting for their creations to report home. Both possibilities are unsettling. The scale of distance. Now consider distance. Our nearest stellar neighbour, Proxima Centauri, lies over 4 light-years away. At Atlas's speed, a journey from there would still take over 20,000 years. From further stars, hundreds of thousands. From the far side of the galaxy, millions. Any civilization that could launch such a probe, or scatter debris across such gulfs, must think in timescales far beyond our own. We measure projects in decades, empires in centuries. They must measure in epochs. To send even one artifact across such distances implies patience we can barely imagine. The scale of capability, and what of their capability? To build something that endures millions of years in deep space is no small feat. Radiation, collisions with dust, the cold of interstellar darkness, all conspire to erode and destroy. Yet Atlas, if it is artifact, survives. This suggests a civilization not only advanced in technology, but also deliberate in purpose. Perhaps they crafted structures resilient against eons. Perhaps they scattered them widely, knowing most would be lost, but trusting a few might survive to bear witness. The galaxy may be littered with such relics, most unseen, most mistaken for stone. We happen to notice only because Atlas wandered close enough to reflect sunlight in our direction. How many more drift invisibly beyond detection? Purpose, why send it? The question of why is hardest of all. Why would any civilization build something like Atlas? Several possibilities unfold, each with its own weight. 1. Exploration. Perhaps Atlas was meant as a scout, dispatched to wander, to gather, to observe. Its anomalies could be scars of sensors long silent, instruments broken by time. The faint coma could be remnants of mechanisms venting their last reserves. If this is true, then Atlas is a witness, carrying memories of journeys across countless stars. 2. Communication. Perhaps it was not designed to observe, but to signal. A message cast into the galaxy like a bottle into the sea, not aimed, not targeted, but broadcast in the only way possible, by drifting until it is found. If so, what message does it carry? Is it encoded in its structure, its composition, its anomalies? Or is the message simply its existence, proof that intelligence can endure? 3. Seeding. Another possibility is darker. Perhaps Atlas is not a messenger, but a seed. A probe designed to carry spores, nanomachines, or instructions for replication. Perhaps its coma is not ice, but residue of attempts to awaken, to replicate, to grow. If so, then Atlas may be less a relic than a beginning, one whose purpose we cannot yet perceive. 4. Debris. Or perhaps it was never sent at all. Perhaps Atlas is simply a casualty, a fragment of a greater whole. The wreckage of a vessel, a station, a megastructure shattered by time or war. In this case, the implication is even more haunting. Civilizations die. Their ruins become indistinguishable from natural debris, and we, in our turn, may one day leave such fragments behind. Civilization behind the relic. Each possibility points back to its makers. If Atlas is artifact, then somewhere, sometime, there was a civilization capable of interstellar reach, advanced enough to design endurance, patient enough to think in millions of years, perhaps wise, perhaps desperate, perhaps indifferent. To imagine them is to stand at the edge of humility. They may have been giants, wielding technology like magic, or they may have been fragile like us, reaching outward with the only tools they had. They may still exist, watching from afar. Or they may be dust, their only trace the silent fragment that passed our sun. And if they exist still, what would they make of us? Would they see us as children, just awakening, as potential rivals to be feared, as allies to be welcomed, or as nothing at all, too small to notice, like ants scurrying at the feet of gods? Implications for us. The implications do not stop with them. They return to us to what it means for humanity to glimpse such a thing. If Atlas is artificial, then we must reconsider our place in the galaxy. We are not unique. We are not first. We are not alone. This realization can be humbling. It can also be terrifying. For if relics drift between stars, then civilizations rise and fall like waves. Their artifacts become debris, their voices silence. To see Atlas as artifact is to glimpse our own possible future, to imagine Earth one day forgotten, leaving behind only fragments mistaken for stone. And yet there is also hope. For if others have reached outward, then so can we. If their creations endure across eons, then perhaps ours will too. The galaxy may be filled with ruins, but ruins are evidence of builders, and builders mean that intelligence, however fragile, can take root more than once. The philosophy of encounter. Pause here. Breathe slowly. Let the thoughts sink in. The night sky above you may be filled not only with stars, but with relics. Silent, drifting, waiting. Some may be fragments like Atlas, mistaken for comets. Some may be vast structures, dark against the void. Some may be smaller than we can see, yet carrying within them the fingerprints of intent. To encounter one, even in passing, is to touch a story greater than ourselves. It is to recognize that the cosmos is not a blank stage upon which only we perform, but a vast archive of civilizations past and present. Each artifact a page, each comet-like visitor a sentence, in a book too large for us to read in one lifetime. And so, Three-Eye Atlas is not only a mystery of astronomy, it is a mirror. In it we see both our hope and our fear. Hope that we are not alone. Fear that our fate may mirror those who came before. Toward cosmic archaeology, some have called this new field cosmic archaeology, the study of artifacts not on Earth, but in space. If Atlas is artifact, then it is our first relic of an alien civilization, the first shard of a story written not in words, but in stone and ice. And what does an archaeologist feel when they brush dust from the bones of an ancient world? Awe, curiosity, dread. We feel the same, staring at Atlas. We want to know who built it. We fear the answer, for to know they existed is to ask, where are they now? And why do they speak only through fragments drifting in silence? The next step. This is the implication, that Atlas, if artificial, is not just an object, it is a revelation, a door opening onto a larger cosmos, one where civilizations rise, create and fall, leaving only whispers behind, one where we are not the first to gaze into the dark. And in this realization lies both beauty and terror. For if the galaxy is haunted by relics, then our story too will one day be part of that haunting. Unless perhaps we learn from what we find. Unless we are wise enough to endure. As you close your eyes now, let that thought drift with you into the silence of the night. Imagine Atlas not only as fragment, but as mirror. Imagine its builders, ancient and unknown, their lives lost to time. Imagine their hands shaping what now passes us by. And imagine us in their place one day sending our own fragments outward to drift across eternity. The implications are vast, and they are only the beginning. For in the next part of our journey we will go further still. We will ask, could Three-Eye Atlas be not only relic but ruin? The archaeology of extinction, the evidence of civilizations that died before they could meet us. When an archaeologist kneels in the dust of an ancient ruin, they hold in their hands more than fragments of stone or pottery. They hold the story of lives once lived, the echo of voices long silent. From broken shards they rebuild whole worlds. They imagine cities, rituals, beliefs, fears and hopes. Each artifact, no matter how small, is a bridge across time. Now imagine that same act, but extended not across centuries or millennia, but across cosmic ages. Imagine artifacts not buried in soil, but drifting in the void. Imagine ruins not of stone, but of ice, metal, or glass, wandering between the stars. This is cosmic archaeology, a study of fragments older than planets, older than civilizations, older perhaps than Earth itself. And if Three-Eye Atlas is what it seems to hint at, then it may be our first shard in this galactic archive. The silence of relics. The first thing an archaeologist learns is that artifacts do not speak directly. They whisper. A broken amphora does not tell you what wine it carried. A crumbling wall does not recount the laughter of children or the weight of grief within it. Those truths must be reconstructed, inferred, guessed. Always there is uncertainty, always room for error, so too with Atlas. If it is relic, it whispers only through anomalies, an erratic brightness, a lopsided coma, a trajectory that resists explanation. These are not sentences, not even words, but fragments of a language we do not yet know how to read. To declare with certainty what Atlas means would be arrogance, but to refuse to wonder would be blindness. The possibility of ruin. Consider that Atlas may be a ruin, a fragment of something once greater. Perhaps it was part of a vessel, a machine, a structure orbiting another star. Perhaps it shattered in collision, broke apart in war, or was abandoned when its builders could no longer sustain it. The surface scars we glimpse through fluctuations in light may be wounds, not features. The faint coma may be leakage, not ice. The drifting trajectory may be collapse, not propulsion. What we see as comet-like behavior could be nothing more than the slow disintegration of technology far beyond our understanding. If so, then Atlas is evidence of fragility, not only ours but universal. Civilizations rise, they build, they send their creations outward, and then, one by one, they fall. Their fragments drift in silence, mistaken for stone until someone, somewhere, notices an anomaly. Galactic stratigraphy. Archaeology on Earth often involves stratigraphy, reading layers of soil as pages of history. The deeper the layer, the older the story. Imagine applying this principle to the galaxy. Each interstellar object we detect could be a layer, a clue to civilizations that rose and fell before us. ʻOumuamua, Borisov, Atlas. 3 fragments from 3 different pasts, telling us not only about astrophysics, but about culture, survival and extinction. We cannot yet read these layers clearly. Our instruments are still too weak, our theories too timid. But perhaps in centuries to come, astronomers will speak of interstellar objects, not only as comets or asteroids, but as sites. They will ask, what epoch does this fragment belong to? What does it say of its makers? What scars of catastrophe does it bear? Cosmic archaeology, if it exists, would not uncover pottery or temples. It would uncover trajectories, anomalies, and materials out of place. It would treat each interstellar visitor not merely as a body to be measured, but as a story to be interpreted. The shadow of extinction. There is a darker side to this archaeology. Every ruin implies a fall, every fragment implies a loss. If Atlas is artifact, then it tells us that its makers are gone, or at least silent. and silence is rarely comforting. The Great Filter, that haunting idea in the study of extraterrestrial life, suggests that civilizations may tend to extinguish themselves before they can spread across the galaxy. War, collapse, environmental ruin, or simply the entropy of time. If relics like Atlas are ruins, then perhaps they are evidence of the filter. Silent warnings drifting through space, shards that say, "We reached outward, but we did not endure." To see Atlas this way is to hold up a mirror. For one day, perhaps, fragments of Earth may drift between the stars, mistaken for comets by others, our satellites, our stations, our debris. They may interpret the anomalies, whisper to each other. Perhaps this was not natural but made, and they may wonder as we do now, where are the makers? Why are they silent? Ruins as warnings or as gifts. But ruins are not only warnings, they are also gifts. Every fragment carries knowledge. A shard of pottery teaches us about trade. A collapsed wall tells us about architecture. A buried city reveals the fragility and resilience of human life. So too, Atlas may carry lessons. Perhaps in its structure are materials unknown to us, hints of physics we have not yet discovered. Perhaps in its behavior are signs of design choices, strategies for survival in deep space. Even as ruin, it may teach. Even as fragment, it may inspire. The very fact that it endures is itself a lesson. To build something that survives millions of years in interstellar space is to understand resilience on a scale we have yet to master. If Atlas is relic, then it tells us it is possible. It can be done. Things built with intent can cross the gulfs of time and distance. The archaeology of the future. Imagine a time when humanity becomes cosmic archaeologists, when probes are sent not only to exoplanets, but to intercept interstellar visitors, when missions are launched not to land, but to listen, to peel back the layers of anomalies like ancient inscriptions. Imagine a spacecraft rendezvousing with a future Atlas. Cameras reveal surfaces smooth in places, jagged in others. Instruments detect alloys unknown, structures too regular to be natural. Scientists lean forward in silence, realizing that they are looking not at comet, not at rock, but at artifact. The first confirmed relic of another civilization. What would that moment feel like? Relief that we are not alone, or dread that the others are gone, leaving only ruins? The quiet between worlds. Pause with me here. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts drift outward. Beyond Earth, beyond our sun, into the darkness between stars. Imagine thousands of fragments like Atlas, each one a relic, each one a shard of stories untold. Some belong to civilizations that flourished and fell long before us. Some belong to civilizations still alive, watching from afar. Some are ruins, some are messages, some are seeds. The galaxy may not be silent at all. It may be filled with whispers, too faint for us to hear. Atlas may be one such whisper, passing too quickly for us to catch, but leaving behind unease and wonder. Toward the next mystery. This is cosmic archaeology. The willingness to look at objects not only as bodies of ice and stone, but as relics of culture, history, and loss. To see Atlas not only as comet, but as ruin. To accept that every anomaly may be a fragment of a larger story. And this thought leads us forward, into speculation deeper still. For if Atlas is a ruin, then what destroyed its makers? Was it time alone? Or something darker? A filter? A silence? A predator in the cosmic dark? The next step in our journey will be to connect the anomalies, to see whether they point not merely to relics of the past, but to patterns of fate. From cosmic archaeology, we move toward cosmic warning. From ruins, we move toward fear. But tonight, let us rest a little longer with the ruins. Let us imagine archaeologists of the future brushing starlight from alien fragments. Let us imagine ourselves as caretakers of a fragile present, one day to be relics ourselves. And let us allow both wonder and dread to sit together in our minds, like two shadows cast by the same distant star. Patterns are not always obvious. They lie scattered, hidden in fragments, waiting for someone to gather them into meaning. On Earth, an archaeologist may walk across a desert, pick up a broken shard and see nothing. But if they gather 10 shards, if they study the shapes and edges, a vessel begins to appear in the mind. A story emerges from fragments. With 3i Atlas, we hold fragments too. Fragments of data scattered like pottery across the void. A flicker in brightness, a coma that vanishes and returns, a trajectory that drifts without cause. Each, on its own, could be dismissed. Noise, error, coincidence. But taken together, the fragments whisper something else. And as we connect the dots, another picture begins to take shape. The light curve puzzle. The first dot is the light curve. Astronomers expected a predictable rhythm, the pulse of rotation. Instead, they found chaos. Sudden flares, deep dimmings, brightness surges too sharp for a simple comet. Models of tumbling, even chaotic rotation, failed to capture the extremes. What explains this better? Not a rock spinning randomly, but a body with surfaces designed to reflect. Flat planes glinting as they turn, facets once polished, now scarred, sending sudden bursts of light when the angle aligns. Natural rock scatters light diffusely. Artificial surfaces can shine like mirrors. The dot, when viewed this way, suggests not chaos, but construction. Not random tumbling, but reflections of something once shaped. The coma mirage. The second dot is the coma. Natural comets produce predictable halos of gas and dust as ices vaporize in sunlight. Atlas did not. Its coma was thin, uneven, erratic, sometimes present, sometimes nearly gone. Jets seemed to shift unpredictably, as though guided by no clear geometry. Could this be natural? Perhaps. But if we connect this anomaly to the first, another picture forms. Imagine machinery venting. Imagine ruptures leaking irregularly, systems failing in fits and starts. The coma then is not ice sublimating smoothly, but exhaust, faint and failing. The dot, connected, suggests not cometary breath, but mechanical death. The trajectory drift. The third dot is the trajectory. Objects follow gravity. Comets may deviate slightly due to outgassing, but their paths align with their activity. Atlas did not. Its coma was too weak, its drift too strong. The mismatch was undeniable. Could this be coincidence? Or is it propulsion? Faint, decayed, but real. The numbers whisper of a system once capable of thrust, now faltering, producing shifts too weak to guide, but too strong to be ignored. The dot drawn into our pattern suggests not random drift, but residual intent. The silence of chemistry. The fourth dot is spectral silence. Natural comets sing chemical songs. Cyanide, carbon monoxide, water, dust. Atlas whispered only faintly. No exotic ices, no unusual volatiles, nothing strong enough to explain the behavior. Its silence was louder than its signal. Perhaps it was simply depleted, or perhaps it was never comet at all. If built, its material need not match familiar chemistry. Its silence is not absence but difference. The dot, added to our vessel of fragments, suggests not a natural composition, but one designed, or one alien. A pattern emerges. When we place these dots together, a pattern forms. Reflections too sharp for a random rock. Coma too irregular for sublimating ice. Trajectory too deviant for weak outgassing. Chemistry too silent for a comet. Individually, anomalies can be explained away. Together, they resist dismissal. They align better with the possibility of artifact than with the insistence on comet. Science will always prefer the simplest natural explanation. But sometimes, the simplest explanation is not natural at all. Sometimes, it is that we are looking at something made. The ʻOumuamua connection. Consider also the first visitor, ʻOumuamua. It too displayed anomalies. Shape too elongated, acceleration without visible coma, brightness too strange. At the time, many whispered the same speculation, perhaps artifact. It was dismissed, officially, but the whispers lingered. Now, 7 years later, another object appears carrying echoes of the same anomalies. If it were only once coincidence, twice less so. With Atlas, the pattern strengthens. The dots connect not only within Atlas but across visitors. A sequence begins to emerge. What does it mean if the first two visitors we detect in all of history both resist natural explanation? It may mean the galaxy is filled not only with debris but with relics. That artifact is not rare but common. That the silence of the sky hides not emptiness, but ruins. The archaeological lens. Cosmic archaeology teaches us to see differently. To treat anomalies not as errors but as inscriptions. To treat deviations not as noise but as writing. Through that lens, Atlas becomes less comet, more relic. Its behavior becomes less puzzle, more message. Not a message in words, but in presence. A fragment saying simply, "We were here once. We left this behind. When you gather fragments of pottery, you see a vessel. When you gather fragments of anomaly, you see intent. The picture is incomplete, blurred by distance and time, but it is there, undeniable. A mirror for ourselves, the pattern does more than reveal the past, it reflects our future. For one day, our machines too will drift, our probes, our satellites, our fragments. Voyager already leaves the solar system, carrying disks of gold. Future probes may last longer, endure further. One day they too may pass an alien star, mistaken for comets until anomalies whisper otherwise. When we connect the dots of Atlas, we are also connecting the dots of our destiny. To build, to endure, to drift, to be misunderstood, to be rediscovered. We see in Atlas both the shadow of another and the echo of ourselves. Between wonder and dread, pause now, breathe slowly. Imagine the night sky above you, vast and indifferent. Imagine connecting the dots, one by one, until the picture forms. A vessel shattered, a probe drifting, a relic enduring. The mind resists, but the picture remains. There is wonder in this, that the galaxy may hold the traces of others, but there is also dread, that the traces we find are ruins, not greetings, that the dots we connect spell not life, but loss, toward darker questions. This is where connecting the dots leads us, to the realization that speculation explains more than science, that relic fits better than rock. And if that is true, then we must ask the next questions. If Atlas is relic, who were its makers? If they are gone, what destroyed them? If they hid their probes as comets, what were they hiding from? In the next step of our journey, we will move beyond connection into fear. We will enter the shadowed speculation of cosmic horror, the dark forest, the great filter, the possibility that Atlas is not only relic, but signal. A signal not meant for us, but for something else. For now, let yourself rest with the pattern. The dots are there. The picture forms. It is not proof, but it is possibility, and possibility is enough to unsettle. There is a metaphor whispered among astronomers and philosophers of the cosmos, the dark forest. It comes from a haunting thought experiment. Imagine the galaxy as a vast forest, and each civilization as a hunter walking silently among the trees. None can know the intentions of the others. Some may be peaceful, others hostile, but all share one truth. To reveal your position is to risk destruction. And so the forest remains silent, each hunter holding their breath, each light extinguished, each voice withheld. The silence of the night sky may not be emptiness, but fear. And into this silence, imagine a sound. A twig snapping beneath a careless foot, a flare of light in the darkness, a signal that should never have been made. This, some whisper, is what Three-Eye Atlas may be. Not a comet, not a relic, but a trigger. A shard of noise in the quiet forest. The fragile piece of silence. For decades, we have puzzled at the Fermi paradox. If life is common in the galaxy, where is everyone? Why is the sky so quiet? The dark forest hypothesis offers a chilling answer. They are silent because they must be. To shout into the void is to invite predators. To announce your presence is to risk annihilation. In this view, the galaxy is not empty, it is tense, filled with civilizations hiding, listening, waiting. Each aware of the other's possible existence, each too afraid to speak. Silence is safety. Caution is survival. But what if one voice slips? What if a fragment drifts, carrying with it traces of intent, unmistakable signs of artificiality? What if 3 Atlas is not only artifact but evidence? A flare in the dark, a signal that others may notice, others we would rather not meet. Atlas as bait. There is a darker interpretation still, that Atlas is not accidental but deliberate. A probe disguised as a comet, designed not to study or to signal but to bait. A lure cast into the cosmic sea, waiting for some curious hand, like ours, to reach for it. Imagine a hunter scattering objects across the forest floor, each one designed to catch the attention of the unwary. Most pass unnoticed, but one day a newcomer bends down, studies too closely, reaches out. In that moment, their position is revealed. If Atlas is such bait, then our very act of observing it is a risk. By turning telescopes toward it, by analyzing its anomalies, by publishing our findings, we may be doing more than studying a rock. We may be lighting a beacon, whispering into the forest. We are here, we are curious, we cannot resist investigating. Atlas as signal. Another possibility is that Atlas is not bait, but signal. Not meant for us, but for others. A marker drifting silently until it passes near a star system. Perhaps it carries a code embedded in its trajectory, its anomalies, its faint emissions. Perhaps it is not a message of communication, but of coordination, a way for civilizations to mark territories, to announce hunts, to send signals to allies or predators. What if Atlas is not aimed at us at all? What if we're only bystanders, unlucky to cross its path? Imagine watching a flare go up in the distance, realizing it was not meant for you, but knowing that others, perhaps dangerous others, will see it too. Patterns across visitors. ʻOumuamua, Borisov, Atlas. 3 visitors in less than a decade after millennia of silence. Coincidence, perhaps. But what if it is not? What if the forest is beginning to stir? ʻOumuamua, strange and inexplicable, accelerated away as though under power. Borisov, reassuringly natural, could be camouflage, a decoy to make us relax. Atlas, ambiguous, unsettled, straddling natural and artificial. The pattern is unnerving. 3 notes of a song whose melody we cannot yet hear. If they are signals, they may not be for us, but our instruments are good enough now to notice. And in noticing, we may be placing ourselves on the map of watchers, the terror of visibility. Pause here. Take a slow breath. Feel the weight of your body, the calm of the night, and then imagine this. Earth, a small blue dot, glowing faintly with radio waves, satellites, cities of light. Imagine how visible we are to anyone looking carefully. Imagine how fragile that visibility makes us. For centuries we have broadcast into the cosmos, radars sweeping the skies, television signals leaking into the void, messages of greeting beamed deliberately to nearby stars. We have spoken into the silence, assuming it to be safe. But if the dark forest is true, then every word is a risk, every signal a flare. And now, perhaps, we see another flare. Atlas, drifting silently, carrying with it a message we cannot yet decode. It is not loud, but it does not need to be. In the forest, even the faintest sound can draw attention. Predators in the dark. The dark forest hypothesis suggests that predators may exist, civilizations that survive not by hiding, but by hunting. They wait for signals, for flares, for mistakes, and when they find them, they strike, removing threats before they can grow. If Atlas is such a signal, then who is it for? What if its anomalies are not random but coded? What if its trajectory is not drift but design? What if its presence in our solar system is less accident, more intent? The thought is almost unbearable. To imagine that what we study as comet or relic is in fact a marker, one that could bring predators to our door, between wonder and horror. Yet, as with all speculation, there is ambiguity. Atlas may be relic, it may be artifact, it may be signal, or it may still be comet, strange but natural. The truth is hidden in the silence, inaccessible to us. But the dark forest lens changes how we see. It forces us to consider not only what Atlas is, but what Atlas means. Not only its anomalies, but their consequences. If we treat it as artifact, we must ask who built it. If we treat it as signal, we must ask who listens. In this way, Atlas becomes not only a scientific puzzle, but a philosophical one. A mirror held to our fears, our hopes, our assumptions about survival in the galaxy. A whisper in the forest. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a vast forest at night. The trees are tall, the shadows endless. You walk carefully, silently, aware that others may be near. You do not know if they are friends or foes. You do not know if they are awake or asleep. You know only that silence is safety. And then behind you a twig snaps, a sound too loud, too careless. The silence shatters, and you realize with a chill that it was not you who made the sound. Atlas may be such a sound, a whisper in the forest of stars, a whisper we heard but one we were not meant to, a whisper that others may hear too. Toward the great filter, this is the terror of the dark forest, that silence is not emptiness but fear, that every signal is a risk, that every relic is a reminder of those who spoke too loudly. And it leads us to the next question, darker still. Perhaps Atlas is not only a signal, but evidence. Evidence that civilizations do not endure. Evidence that the great filter, the barrier that prevents life from spreading freely, is real. In the next part of our journey, we will turn to that possibility. that Atlas is not only anomaly, not only artifact but symptom, a shard of proof that civilizations rise, build, and fall, and that silence is not natural but enforced. But for now, rest, breathe. Let the stars above you remain calm, silent, beautiful. The forest is dark, the forest is vast, and Atlas drifts within it, a whisper we may yet regret hearing. The stars above us are countless. The Milky Way alone holds hundreds of billions of suns, and each may cradle its own family of planets. Statistically, life should be everywhere. Civilizations should bloom like flowers across the galaxy, reaching out, building, exploring. Yet when we listen, the sky is silent. No signals, no voices, no evidence of thriving neighbours. This silence is known as the Fermi paradox, and one of its most chilling answers is the Great Filter. The Great Filter is the idea that somewhere along the path from lifeless rock to spacefaring civilization, there is a barrier, a wall so high that almost no one crosses it. Some may falter at the beginning, life itself may be rare, others may stumble later, intelligence may be fragile, technology self-destructive, survival short-lived. If the filter lies ahead of us, then our own extinction awaits. If it lies behind us, then perhaps we are among the lucky few who passed. But what if Atlas is evidence of the filter? What if its anomalies are not only signs of artifact, but relics of a civilization that did not endure? The filter behind. Let us first imagine that the great filter lies behind us, that life itself is rare, that intelligence is rarer still, and that civilizations almost never reach for the stars. In this view, Atlas could be an extraordinary exception, a fragment of one of the few others who made it far enough to build, to launch, to send their creations into the void. If so, then Atlas is precious beyond measure, a shard of proof that we're not alone, that others once lived, once dreamed, once built. Their silence now would not be the silence of destruction, but of absence. They were too rare, too fragile, too few. Their relics drift like fossils in the cosmic sea, rare and wondrous. This interpretation offers a kind of comfort. If the filter lies behind us, then humanity may endure. We may be among the survivors, destined to spread, to build, to leave our own relics. The galaxy may be quiet, not because it is dangerous, but because it is empty. An Atlas passing briefly through our skies may be one of the only voices we will ever hear. The filter ahead. But there is another possibility, darker and more haunting, that the great filter lies ahead of us, that civilizations do arise, that they do build, that they do launch their creations into space, but that they do not last. Something awaits them. A catastrophe written into the fabric of existence. If Atlas is relic, then perhaps it is the relic of a civilization that reached where we are now, and then fell. Perhaps they built probes, stations, ships. Perhaps they dreamed of spreading across the stars, and then something ended them. War, collapse, a predator in the dark forest, a cosmic catastrophe. Their creations endure, but they do not. In this interpretation, Atlas is not only a fragment, it is a warning, a message not in words but in silence, a shard drifting past our sun whispering, "We tried, we failed, you may too." The timing of visitors. Consider again the timing. For all of human history we detected no interstellar visitors. Then within 7 years we saw 3, ʻOumuamua, Borisov, Atlas. 3 glimpses in quick succession, each with its own anomalies, each raising its own questions. What if this is not coincidence? What if the galaxy is, in truth, filled with relics, the debris of civilizations who met the filter? What if our newfound telescopes are only now sharp enough to notice them? Then the silence of the sky is not emptiness, it is graveyard. A cemetery vast beyond imagining, where each drifting shard is a tombstone, each interstellar visitor a relic of someone who failed to endure. The nature of the filter. What could the filter be? If Atlas is evidence, then perhaps it hints at the form of the wall civilization strike. It could be technological self-destruction. Weapons too powerful, accidents too devastating, ambitions too reckless. A civilization might reach outward, only to collapse under its own creations. Atlas, then, could be a shard of technology blasted into the void by war. It could be resource exhaustion, civilizations consuming themselves until nothing remains. Atlas, then, could be debris of machines left adrift when their makers fell silent, unable to sustain them. It could be external, predators hunting in the dark forest. If so, Atlas might be more than debris. It might be scar, wound, evidence of conflict. A shard left behind when hunters struck, silencing another voice in the night. Or perhaps it is simply entropy, the slow, inevitable decay of time. Civilizations may endure for millions of years, but in the span of billions, even millions are fragile. Atlas, then, is nothing more than an ancient ruin, drifting long after its builders faded naturally into history. A mirror of our future. Pause here. Take a slow breath. Imagine Earth, centuries or millennia from now. Our satellites, our stations, our probes, long since abandoned, drifting silently. Voyager, with its golden record, passing between stars mistaken for debris. Earth itself quiet, its cities eroded, its voices gone. What would another civilization see looking at our relics? Perhaps they would see what we see in Atlas, anomalies, contradictions, whispers of design. They would speculate, was this natural, or was it made? They would wonder, where are the makers? Why are they silent? This is the mirror Atlas holds up to us. If it is relic, then it is not only about them, it is about us. It is about what we may become. The psychology of the filter. There is a cruel beauty in the great filter. It offers both dread and humility. To believe the filter lies ahead is to live with fear, knowing our survival is not guaranteed. To believe it lies behind is to live with responsibility, knowing we may be rare, perhaps the only ones left to carry intelligence forward. In either case, Atlas becomes more than comet. It becomes symbol. If it is relic, it tells us that the filter is real, and that survival is not universal, that others have tried, that others have failed, that we must choose carefully if we are to endure. The weight of evidence. Skeptics will say, Atlas is a comet, nothing more. Its anomalies are noise, its whispers are coincidence. That is the safer story, the calmer one, and perhaps they are right. But what if they are wrong? What if dismissing anomalies blinds us to evidence? What if each relic that drifts past is another dot in a larger pattern, a pattern we refuse to see because it is too terrible? Then Atlas is not noise but signal, not comet but shard, not coincidence but proof. Proof that civilizations fall, proof that silence is survival, proof that the great filter is not theory but fact, toward the worst case. And this brings us to the next turn in our journey. If Atlas is evidence of the filter, then what comes next? What if its anomalies are not only relic, not only ruin, but symptom of something larger? What if it is not only proof of extinction, but part of the process? The next step is darker still. The thought that Atlas could be more than relic, more than warning, that it could be active, that it could be a mechanism of the filter itself, a silent invasion, a seed, a shift in reality itself. But before we step there, pause once more, breathe. Let your mind rest beneath the stars. Imagine Atlas drifting away, silent, cold, enigmatic. Perhaps comet, perhaps relic, perhaps warning. The great filter looms, unseen but felt, and we, small and fragile, wonder whether we have already passed it, or whether it waits still ahead. It is tempting to think of Three-Eye Atlas as passive, a relic, a ruin, a message frozen in stone, something to observe, interpret, and let drift away. But what if it is not passive at all? What if it is active, even in silence? What if its very presence is not only evidence of the past, but a force shaping the present? There are darker possibilities, and they begin with invasion. Not the noisy invasion of fleets and armies, but the quiet one. The kind you do not notice until it is too late. The kind that hides in plain sight, disguised as comet, fragment, debris. The silent invasion. The nanotech hypothesis. Imagine that within Atlas are not machines we can see, but machines too small for our eyes. Nanotechnology. Self-replicating systems the size of molecules built to endure across eons. Hidden within the ice, shielded by dust, they wait. When sunlight strikes, when heat awakens, they stir. Not as bright jets of gas, but as invisible clouds of microscopic machines drifting outward. To us, it looks like a faint, inconsistent coma, but in truth, it is dispersal. Spores released into the solar wind, scattering across the system. What purpose would they serve? Perhaps to seed life, rewriting chemistry on young worlds, perhaps to probe, gathering data silently and transmitting it by means we cannot detect, perhaps to prepare, altering ecosystems or even physics itself, laying groundwork for something to come. This is invasion not with weapons but with dust. Invasion that does not ask permission, that does not announce itself. Invasion that spreads silently, invisibly, beyond recall. Panspermia and seeding. Another possibility is panspermia, the idea that life spreads between worlds via comets, meteors, drifting fragments. Some scientists suggest that life on Earth itself may have begun this way, carried by stones from elsewhere, bringing with them the chemistry of beginnings. If Atlas is not natural, then perhaps it is engineered panspermia, a vessel of seeds, carrying the building blocks of life not by chance, but by design. Its faint coma could be not dust, but biology, spores, microbes, or something stranger, dispersing as it passes. If so, then Atlas is gardener, not invader. But the difference may be meaningless. To seed life is to alter destiny, to rewrite futures, to impose presence across time. The life we cherish as our own may, in truth, be someone else's design, planted long ago. Atlas may be a reminder that we are not origin, but outcome. The Trojan horse. There is a still darker thought, that Atlas is not only seed, but trap. A Trojan horse drifting into our system, carrying within it a payload meant to activate only under certain conditions. It could be time-delayed, designed to awaken after centuries, long after we have stopped watching. It could be responsive, triggered by signals we have already sent, radio, radar, telescopes probing too curiously. It could even be quantum, interacting with physics in ways we do not yet understand. The coma we see may be leakage, malfunction, the edges of something greater, or it may be exactly what it is meant to be, a signal that says the package has arrived. The shift of laws. Beyond invasion, there is speculation still more unsettling, that Atlas is not technology in any form we know, but something that changes reality itself. Physics feels solid to us, gravity, light, time, constants we trust. But what if advanced civilizations learn to alter those constants? What if Atlas is not a probe, but a carrier of change? Imagine a device that can warp local space-time, altering trajectories without jets or engines. Imagine material that bends light in unnatural ways, producing the strange reflections we see. Imagine a structure that shifts probability itself, ensuring its own survival by rewriting the rules around it. If so, then Atlas is not merely artifact. It is anomaly by design. Its very strangeness is the point. It does not obey our physics fully because it was never meant to. It carries with it the fingerprint of a deeper layer of reality, one we have not yet touched. To encounter it is to glimpse that our laws are not final, but provincial. That the universe we know is not the only universe possible. The horror of unknowing. Pause here. Breathe slowly. Imagine the stars above, steady, calm, and then imagine one shard drifting among them, carrying within it dust of machines, seeds of life, or laws of physics rewritten. You do not see it, you cannot touch it, and yet it may already be changing you. This is the horror of the silent invasion, that it does not announce itself, that it does not need to, that it works in shadows, in scales beyond perception. By the time you realize it has arrived, it has already been here for ages. Perhaps the coma we saw, faint and irregular, was not failure but success. Perhaps dispersal was the plan. Perhaps even now particles too small to see drift among us, waiting for conditions to bloom. The mirror of our own future. And yet, in imagining these possibilities, we are also imagining ourselves. For what would we do if given the chance? If humanity survives long enough to build probes that cross interstellar gulfs, how would we design them? Would we send messages of peace, golden records etched with greetings? Or would we send spores, seeds of life to worlds beyond our reach? Or would we send machines, small and silent, to prepare distant systems for our arrival? In our imagination of Atlas, we reveal our own intentions. We see in it the paths we might one day walk. We fear because we recognize ourselves. The ambiguity of artifact. It is possible, of course, that Atlas is none of these, that it is only comet, only stone, only ice, that its anomalies are natural quirks, not designs, that all we fear is projection. But speculation has its own power. It forces us to confront possibilities, to see beyond the safety of what is familiar. And in Atlas we find an artifact of ambiguity. It may be comet, it may be probe, it may be seed, it may be Trojan horse, and perhaps the most unsettling possibility of all is that we will never know, that it will drift away, growing faint, vanishing into the night, that the answers will remain out of reach, leaving only unease, toward the worst case. This is where our path now leads, from ruin to warning, from invasion to transformation, each step darker than the last, each possibility heavier, and if we continue this journey we must ask the final question: what is the worst case? If Atlas is relic, then it is warning. If it is probe, then it is observation. If it is seed, then it is rewriting. If it is Trojan horse, then it is threat. If it is reality shift, then it is terror beyond comprehension. The next step in our journey will be to imagine this worst case, to gather all threads of speculation into one vision of horror, not because it is certain, but because it is possible. And in the silence of the cosmos, possibility is enough. For now, breathe. Let your thoughts drift outward. Imagine Atlas receding into the dark, its coma faint, its brightness flickering. Imagine that it is not gone, not passive, not empty, but working silently, invisibly, rewriting futures in ways we cannot yet perceive. The invasion, if it exists, is already silent. The shift, if it is real, has already begun. Speculation can wander in many directions. Probe, relic, seed, trap, shift. Each alone is unsettling. But what if they are not separate? What if Three-Eye Atlas is not one possibility, but many at once? A thing that is probe and relic, seed and trap, artifact and anomaly. To imagine the worst case is to weave them together into one coherent vision. Let us walk slowly into that vision. The disguise. It begins with camouflage. To enter the dark forest one must hide. Atlas hides as a comet, faint and irregular, familiar enough to pass unnoticed. The coma is mask, the brightness misdirection. To most observers it is only stone and ice. To us who looked closer, anomalies whisper otherwise. But perhaps that too is part of the disguise, to leave just enough strangeness that the curious will lean in, revealing themselves. Imagine a hunter laying traps not by making them invisible, but by making them intriguing, by leaving them slightly out of place so that curiosity itself becomes the bait, the seed. Beneath the mask lies seed. Within the dust, within the coma, within the faint jets of material, are particles too small to see. Nanomachines, spores, instructions for replication. As Atlas passes through the solar system, it disperses them. Some fall into the solar wind, carried outward. Some drift toward planets. A few fall silently toward Earth, indistinguishable from the countless meteors that burn in our skies each night. They do not awaken immediately. They wait. For warmth, for chemistry, for signal. Perhaps for centuries, perhaps forever. The seed is patient. The Trojan horse. The seed is not the only danger. The body itself is Trojan horse, a fragment carrying dormant systems, ancient but not dead. Some are mechanical, others biological, others perhaps neither. They are designed to endure, to survive collisions, radiation, time. What if, deep within Atlas, there is a core? A mechanism that can awaken under the right conditions, a transmitter that will not broadcast until triggered, a system that has been silent for millions of years but could still open its eyes. And what if we, in our curiosity, have already triggered it? By radar pulses, by telescopic signals, by the very act of noticing. A Trojan horse does not need to enter the gates by force, it only needs to be welcomed. The reality shift. Woven into this is something still stranger. Perhaps the Trojan horse does not carry machines, but laws, not chemistry, but physics. Imagine material that bends probability, surfaces that alter reflection not randomly, but deliberately, structures that tug not only against gravity but against the rules themselves. This would explain the anomalies: brightness too sharp, coma too irregular, trajectory too defiant. Atlas does not merely break rules, it carries new rules, and as it drifts past, those rules brush against us, altering imperceptibly the fabric of reality in its wake. Perhaps we do not yet notice, perhaps we will never notice except in whispers, constants shifting slightly, probabilities bending subtly, the universe becoming not what it was. The signal? Worst of all, Atlas is not only seed, not only trap, not only shift, it is signal. Its anomalies are not accidents. They are code. A pattern broadcast not to us, but to watchers in the dark forest. Imagine a system of hidden beacons disguised as comets, drifting silently until they pass near stars. Each flare of brightness, each irregular coma, each impossible trajectory is not noise, but language. To us, anomalies. To others, message. Perhaps the message is simple. Another system ripe and alive has been found. If so, then Atlas is not warning us. It is betraying us. A flare in the forest, a snapped twig in the silence, the sequence of visitors. Now consider the sequence. ʻOumuamua, strange and silent. Borisov, ordinary and reassuring. Atlas, ambiguous and unsettling. Together, they may not be chance. They may be pattern. First, scout. Second, decoy. Third, trigger. The scout probes, measuring who is watching. The decoy reassures, lulling curiosity. The trigger carries the signal, waiting to be noticed, waiting to betray. And perhaps more will come. A fourth, a fifth, each step a stage in a plan older than humanity, larger than our species. The great filter is mechanism. In this vision, the great filter is not accident, not entropy, not self-destruction. It is mechanism. The galaxy remains silent because every civilization that grows too curious, too visible, too bold, is found. And when they are found, they are ended. Atlas, then, is not relic of extinction. It is instrument of extinction. Not proof that civilizations fail, but reason that they fail. Each shard that drifts past is both messenger and weapon, both ruin and cause of ruin. The silence of the galaxy is not natural. It is enforced. The future unfolds. Pause here. Breathe. Imagine this vision unfolding. Humanity continues to watch the skies. We detect more interstellar visitors. Each one brings anomalies. Each one tempts us deeper. We send probes to investigate. We bring fragments home. And slowly, invisibly, the invasion spreads. Dust settling into our biosphere. Nanotech weaving itself into ecosystems. Probability bending at the edges of physics. Until one day, we realize the world is not what it was. Until one day, our own creations falter. Until one day, the sky is no longer silent, but filled with voices not our own. By then, it is too late. The lull of sleep. And yet, as terrifying as this vision is, the telling of it is calm. For terror, when whispered softly, becomes lullaby. The worst case does not need to be loud. It need only linger. So let your thoughts drift. Imagine Atlas not only as comet, not only as relic, but as all possibilities at once. Disguise, seed, trap, shift, signal. The hunter's bait, the predator's flare, the mechanism of silence in the dark forest. You may never know if this is true. You may never need to. Atlas is already fading, already gone, already beyond our reach. Its secrets vanish into the dark. But the unease remains, like a shadow at the edge of the fire, toward philosophy. From here we cannot descend further into horror without breaking into madness. The next step must be different, to turn from fear toward reflection, to ask not only what Atlas is, but what it means, to step from speculation back into philosophy. In the next part of our journey we will pause once more, not to explain, but to reflect. We will ask, what does Atlas tell us about ourselves, about our place, about the meaning of life in a galaxy that may be haunted by ruins, traps, and silence? But tonight, as you drift towards sleep, hold this vision gently. The worst case is not only horror, it is a reminder that the cosmos is vast, that we are fragile, that we live in a forest we do not understand, and that silence is not always peace. After fear comes reflection. After the shadows of worst-case scenarios, we pause to breathe. Horror unsettles us, but philosophy steadies us. If Three-Eye Atlas is artifact or ruin or trap or seed, what then? Beyond speculation lies the deeper question. What does it mean for us, for our place in the cosmos, for the fragile lives we live under these stars? The scale of smallness. Begin with scale. Earth is a grain of dust suspended in a vast dark sea. The sun, though bright to us, is one star among hundreds of billions in the Milky Way. The Milky Way itself is one galaxy among trillions in the observable universe. In this immensity, our lives, our cities, our nations, our fears are brief flickers, a single heartbeat against the silence of eternity. And yet, in this smallness, we find meaning. The very fact that we can look upward, that we can notice Atlas at all, is extraordinary. Out of all the countless fragments drifting between stars, one passed close enough for us to see. Out of all the countless generations of humanity, it is ours that has telescopes sharp enough to detect it. Out of all the billions of lives on Earth, it is yours that now lies awake, listening to this story, contemplating what it means. Smallness does not erase meaning, it deepens it. To be fragile is not to be worthless, it is to be precious. The silence of the sky. Now consider silence. The night sky is vast and bright with stars, yet no voices reach us. Perhaps it is because civilizations are rare. Perhaps it is because they hide. Perhaps it is because they fall. Whatever the reason, the silence is real. We may choose to fear it, to see silence as evidence of danger, of filters, of predators in the dark forest. But we may also choose to see it as canvas, a backdrop against which we can write our own story, a quietness that allows our voices to matter, however faint they may be. If the galaxy is a graveyard, then we are among the living. If the galaxy is empty, then we are its consciousness. If the galaxy is hiding, then we are among the few who dare to look upward at all. Silence is not always absence, sometimes it is invitation. The fragility of time. Time stretches infinitely behind us and ahead of us. Atlas has drifted for millions of years, perhaps billions. Humanity has existed for only thousands. Against this scale, our lives are impossibly brief, and yet this brevity gives us urgency. Every moment matters more when it is fleeting. To live is to burn bright for an instant in the cosmic dark, to wonder, to love, to fear, to hope, all in a span so short it vanishes against Atlas's journey. But that is not tragedy. It is beauty. For what is precious if not the fragile? A diamond is only carbon, but its rarity makes it shine. A human life is only atoms, but its brevity makes it sacred. The question of meaning. If civilizations rise and fall, if relics drift as ruins, if the great filter waits, then what meaning can life hold? One answer is none. The universe is indifferent. Stars burn, comets drift, civilizations collapse, and nothing remembers. But another answer is all. Meaning is not given by the universe. It is made by those who live within it. The fact that we ask the question, what does it mean? Is it self-meaning? We give significance by choosing to care, to wonder, to imagine. Atlas does not care whether we understand it. The stars do not care whether we look upward, but we care, and in caring we create meaning where none was before. The mirror of Atlas. Think of Atlas not only as object but as mirror. In it we see reflections of ourselves, our curiosity in studying it, our fear in imagining its danger, our hope in dreaming it might be message, our philosophy in wondering what it means. If it is comet, then it reminds us of the beauty of natural processes, the endless dance of stone and ice across the galaxy. If it is artifact, then it reminds us that we are not alone, that others have walked this path. If it is ruin, then it reminds us of fragility, of how easily greatness can vanish. If it is trap, then it warns us of danger, of the cost of being seen. In all cases, Atlas reflects us back to ourselves, what we fear, what we hope, what we choose to believe. The philosophy of fragility. Pause here. Breathe. Imagine the night sky above you. Imagine your own life, brief and fragile, within it. Imagine humanity, young and uncertain, reaching into the dark. Fragility is not weakness. Fragility is awareness. The awareness that we are temporary and therefore must cherish, that we are small and therefore must marvel, that we are vulnerable and therefore must be kind. If the galaxy is filled with ruins, then perhaps kindness is our rebellion. If the filter looms, then perhaps wonder is our defiance. If silence endures, then perhaps meaning lies not in being heard, but in listening. Legacy and continuity. Atlas has drifted longer than we have lived. It will continue drifting long after we are gone. In this, it reminds us of legacy. We cannot outlast stars, we cannot outlast galaxies, but we can leave traces. Perhaps our satellites, our probes, our monuments will one day drift as relics. Perhaps some future intelligence will notice their anomalies, wonder about their makers, and tell stories as we do now. Perhaps our silence will one day whisper to others. Legacy is not immortality, it is continuity. The thread of meaning carried forward, however faintly, however briefly, into the future. The gift of wonder. And so, what is Atlas to us? It is mystery. And mystery is gift. For in not knowing, we are free to imagine. In uncertainty, we are free to hope. In anomaly, we are free to reflect. This gift is not comfortable. It unsettles. It haunts. But it also awakens. It stirs us from complacency, reminds us of scale, reminds us of fragility, reminds us of wonder. Perhaps that is its true meaning. Not relic, not trap, not seed, but mirror. A mirror that says, look at yourselves, fragile beings beneath fragile stars, and remember to marvel. Toward the descent. From here, our journey begins its final descent. We have traced Atlas from discovery to anomaly, from speculation to horror, from horror to philosophy. The next step is to gather the unknowns, to admit what we do not and cannot know, to sit with humility in the silence, and finally to let the story fade into stillness, into sleep. But for now, linger in this philosophy. Breathe slowly. Feel the smallness of your body against the vastness of the night sky. Remember that fragility is meaning, silence is invitation, and wonder is gift. Whether Atlas is stone or artifact, ruin or trap, seed or signal, it does not matter. What matters is that it passed, that we noticed, that we wondered, that in its fleeting visit it reminded us who we are, dreamers in the dark telling stories beneath the stars. At the end of every investigation comes the moment of humility. We gather the data, we build the theories, we follow the speculation into wonder and into fear, and yet, when the dust settles, much remains unanswered. These are the known unknowns, the questions we can frame but cannot yet solve. Three-Eye Atlas, like every interstellar visitor, leaves us with many such questions. They linger like stars just beyond reach, visible but untouchable. And perhaps it is in these questions, not in answers, that its true gift lies. What we know. We know that Three-Eye Atlas was real, a faint object catalogued in 2024 by the Atlas telescope in Hawaii. We know its orbit was hyperbolic, which means it came from beyond our solar system and will never return. We know its speed was extraordinary, too fast for capture. We know it displayed a faint coma, uneven and inconsistent. We know its brightness varied strangely, with sudden surges and deep fades. We know its trajectory drifted slightly in ways gravity alone could not explain. We know it passed briefly through our reach, and then vanished into the dark. What we do not know. We do not know its true shape. Was it shard or sphere, slab or fragment? Our telescopes could not resolve it. We saw only light curves, indirect hints. We do not know its exact composition. Spectra were faint, revealing little. Was it ordinary ice and dust, or something exotic, or something unnatural? We cannot say. We do not know the cause of its anomalies. Fragmentation, exotic ices, chaotic rotation. Each theory explains some, but not all. Artificiality explains some, but not all. None fit perfectly. We do not know its origin. Which star, which system, which history? Its path before entering our solar system is lost to time. And most of all, we do not know its meaning. Was it comet, relic, trap, signal, artifact? The evidence whispers but does not shout. We are left with riddles, not resolutions. The limits of science. Science is powerful, but not omnipotent. It relies on observation, and Atlas gave us little time. It relies on instruments, and our instruments are young. It relies on repeatability, and Atlas will not return. These are not failures, but reminders. Reminders that knowledge has edges, that mystery persists, that humility is part of wisdom. The astronomers who studied Atlas did their best, drawing careful conclusions, acknowledging uncertainty. Their papers end with phrases like, further study required, data inconclusive, possibilities remain open. These are not evasions, they are honesty. For to admit what we do not know is the first step toward growth. The shadows of speculation. Speculation fills the gaps, but speculation is shadow. Probes, relics, seeds, Trojan horses, shifts of reality. These are stories we tell ourselves, bridges across the unknown. They comfort and terrify, they inspire and unsettle, but they remain provisional. To imagine is not to know. To wonder is not to prove, and so we must hold speculation gently as possibility, not certainty. The danger is not in wondering, the danger is in forgetting the difference. The lessons of Atlas. From these known unknowns, what lessons remain? First, that the universe is stranger than we assume. Objects like Atlas define neat categories. Nature does not always fit the boxes we make. Second, that mystery is valuable. Atlas reminds us that not everything is solved, not everything is understood. In an age when we often feel we know too much, mystery humbles us, awakens us, keeps us curious. Third, that fragility is real. We had only a short time to study Atlas before it slipped away. A reminder that windows of knowledge close quickly, that opportunity must be seized, that the cosmos will not wait for us. And finally, that humility is strength. To admit we do not know is not defeat, but courage. It is the refusal to pretend. It is the openness to be surprised. The known unknowns of humanity. And beyond Atlas, there are deeper unknowns, not only what it is, but who we are. We do not know if we are alone. We do not know if we will endure. We do not know if the great filter lies behind us or ahead. We do not know what legacy we will leave, or whether our relics will drift one day as Atlas drifts now. These too are known unknowns. We frame the questions but cannot answer them. We look to the stars, but the stars do not answer back. The philosophy of ignorance. Pause here. Breathe. Imagine yourself lying beneath the night sky looking upward. Feel the weight of your body, the stillness of your breath. Know that you are surrounded by questions, by mysteries, by silences. Ignorance is not failure. It is a condition of life. To live is to not know. To wonder is to admit incompleteness. And there is peace in this. For certainty is heavy. Mystery is light. To rest in not knowing is to allow yourself to dream. To accept that you do not control, do not master, do not solve everything. That is freedom. Atlas as teacher. In this way, Atlas becomes teacher. Not by what it revealed, but by what it withheld. Its gift is not data, but mystery. Its legacy is not clarity, but humility. It teaches us to accept limits. It teaches us to embrace wonder. It teaches us that sometimes the most profound answer is silence. Like a teacher who asks questions but never provides solutions, Atlas leaves us unsettled, but also awakened. It reminds us that knowledge is journey, not destination, toward the final descent. And so, as we near the end of our journey, we gather the known unknowns like pebbles in our hands. Small, incomplete, mysterious. They are not satisfying, but they are honest. Atlas came, we noticed, we wondered, it left. That is the story, and the rest is silence. In the final part of our journey, we will let that silence wash over us. We will descend gently into stillness, into sleep, into the calm that mystery provides. We will close the story not with answers, but with rest. For the universe is vast, our lives are brief, and not every riddle will be solved. Some are meant only to be lived with. Every story must find its ending, though in truth, the universe never ends. Stars burn, fade, and are reborn. Galaxies collide, stretch, and continue. Comets drift for millions of years, and still they move on. The tale of Three-Eye Atlas is no different. It came, it was noticed, it left. And now it drifts into the dark, carrying with it mysteries we cannot solve, questions we cannot answer, and silences we cannot break. As we descend into the quiet of this final part, let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts soften, like shadows stretching across the evening sky. The mysteries remain, but they are no longer urgent. They are background music, a lullaby sung by the cosmos itself. The journey we took. We began together with the stars, with you lying beneath the night sky, imagining the vastness above. We traced the discovery of Atlas, the way telescopes glimpsed its faint light. We examined its data, the size, the speed, the coma, the anomalies. We compared it to other visitors, ʻOumuamua, Borisov. We listened as science tried to explain, and we watched as those explanations faltered. We speculated, probe, relic, seed, trap. We ventured into the dark forest, where silence is survival and signals are danger. We whispered of the great filter, of civilizations that rise and fall. We imagined silent invasions, Trojan horses, reality shifting at the edges of physics. We faced the worst case, a vision of all fears woven together, and then we turned to philosophy, to reflection, humility, and meaning. to known unknowns and the peace of not knowing. Each step took us deeper into mystery, but also deeper into calm. For mystery is not only fear, it is also wonder. The image of departure. Now picture Atlas once more, a faint point of light shrinking, dimming, fading into the abyss beyond Neptune. Its coma is gone, its brightness faint, its trajectory leading it outward forever. It does not look back, it does not linger, it simply goes, silent and indifferent. Imagine watching it from afar, a dot against the stars slipping away. Imagine the patience of its journey, millions of years behind it, millions ahead. Imagine the quiet dignity of its passage. And now, imagine letting it go. For Atlas is not ours to hold, it was never ours. It belongs to the void, and to whatever story it carries written in silence. The stillness of the night sky. As Atlas recedes, turn your gaze upward once more to the night sky above you. See the stars as steady lights, shimmering faintly, each one distant, each one ancient, each one part of a larger whole. The sky does not demand answers. It does not demand certainty. It simply is. The same is true of mystery. It does not demand resolution. It does not require you to solve it. It allows you simply to dwell within it, to let it wash over you like the tide, to let it carry you gently, without urgency, without fear. The night sky is both infinite and immediate. It stretches across billions of years, and yet it is above you now, in this moment, steady and calm. The gift of rest. Pause here. Feel the rhythm of your breath. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. Let your heart beat slow, steady as the ticking of a distant clock. You are alive in this moment. That is enough. Atlas drifts on, the stars shine, the universe unfolds. You are here, listening, resting, wondering. That is all that is required. Rest is gift too, just as mystery is gift, just as silence is gift. To rest is to align yourself with the rhythm of the cosmos, patient, vast, eternal. The echo of wonder. Even as you rest, let a small spark of wonder remain. Wonder that you exist at all in this vast universe. Wonder that you can see stars and think and imagine. Wonder that fragments from other systems pass close enough for you to notice. This wonder is gentle, not urgent. It does not press, it does not disturb. It is soft, like the glow of starlight on calm water. It lingers quietly, even as sleep draws near. The descent into sleep. Now, let yourself drift. Drift as Atlas drifts, silently, endlessly, without struggle. Drift as comets drift, patient and calm. Drift as dust drifts, carried by currents unseen. Your thoughts may wander, but let them wander gently. If they return to fear, let them soften into curiosity. If they return to curiosity, let them soften into calm. If they return to calm, let them soften into sleep. Sleep is not escape. It is continuity. It is the echo of the cosmos within you. Stars burn, planets turn, comets drift, and you too rest. The final silence. Atlas is gone now, out of sight, out of reach. Its story remains unfinished, unanswered. And perhaps that is the truest story of all, that not everything is meant to be solved, that some mysteries endure, that silence itself is message. In that silence there is peace. In that silence there is space for dreams. In that silence there is rest. So close your eyes, let the stars remain above you, let Atlas drift away, let your breath become slow, steady even, and let yourself slip gently into the same silence.